How are you doing? Please come put a comment in the chat so I know who you guys are. That would be awesome. 3 in the house. And we are 35 seconds in. How has your week been, guys? Mine has been pretty good, actually. I can't complain. Hey, PV, good to see you, brother. How are you doing? Not really, buddy. Not really. And I pinned the StreamYard link in the top of the chat as usual. So, you know the drill. Feel free to click it and join me up here. That would be awesome. We wait a couple of more minutes. Okay, PB. That's good to hear. We wait a couple of minutes more and wait until more people will join or pop up. They usually do. So, today's topic is finding the perfect location. But we get into that a little bit later. Hey, PV, good to see you.
How are you doing? You all right, Shadow?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Hey, Maccabees, everyday survival.
Who's that? Maccabeus and Nick Muller.
Yeah.
Aaron Dobson.
Yeah, he was earlier. Yeah, 5:53 or something.
I know we've just had a solar flare. Isn't that bright? Have you got something?
Hey, Nick Miller.
I see we've had a chain of flares recently.
Yeah.
Did you see
I follow it.
Aurora?
I haven't seen anything yet. But
No, we didn't see anything here. But apparently everybody else did.
Yeah. And the reason for the sunglasses is not Terminator. It's too bright, actually.
Yeah.
My eyes is so light sensitive, so
right.
My eyes will begin to be nasty.
Right.
Hey, Vanessa, good to see you.
Hey, Vanessa.
How are you doing, Vanessa? I hope you are okay.
Hey, Nick. It's been an interesting week, eventful as well, especially on the solar side of it as well, with the solar flares and the coronal mass ejections.
Yeah, 4 to be correct, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's been about 6.
6? I heard 4.
No, it's been more than that.
Okay.
I've got. I keep getting pinged on me solar app that I've got.
Yeah.
And I set it to the highest threshold, and it woke me up early one morning in the week. I thought, well, hang on a minute, what's this? You know, must be serious, because I set it to the maximum thresholds, and we got this chain of flares coming. I'm really surprised, actually. You know, while we are ramping up for the next peak of the cycles, there's region 3664 has got 65 sunspots all contained within that concentrated area, so making it effectively like a super spot, if you like. But each one like detonating a mini sort of flare out. Well, I say mini, but I think the latest one was 5.8. Yeah. And we're on a KP index of 8 at the moment, which is the geomagnetic effects. I mean, the scale only goes up to 9. We got nothing to really worried about, I don't think. It's been the usual scaremongering going on with various channels.
Yeah.
But to be honest, anything less than a 10, I'm not concerned with anything. I'll really be concerned if it was getting to the sort of X20 plus sort of flare. Then I'll start taking action.
Yeah, that would be a little bit of an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it makes a good light show anyway. A bit like what was that film? Day of the Triffids. Everyone started looking out the light show. Next morning,
Oh yeah.
everyone watched it with blinds, and all the plants started attacking people.
Yeah.
Dana B, hello.
Dana B, good to see you, ma'am. How are you doing? Vanessa says sensationalistic beast channels get dropped from my lists quite fast. Yeah.
Yeah, they just, I mean, these channels, they've got nothing to say, nothing to contribute. They run out of ideas and they just scaremonger. Well, yeah, I mean, they regurgitate news stories from someone else and they just do it as a tick in the box for their weekly sort of broadcast or, video, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not fooling anyone really. I think sometimes a load of subscribers aren't actually real people. I mean, I could get, my subscriber list, for instance, stays stagnant on, say, 1,250. I do a video and all of a sudden 5 subscribers ping up over the next couple of days. They're not real people. Real people interact with you and give you support and stuff like that. So, yeah. But yeah, anyway, it's been an interesting week. The weather's ramped up a bit. It's got a lot warmer here. It's into the 20s this week. So, yeah, did a bit of planning, a bit of checking, stocking up, stuff like that, scoping out new things, talking to various people, all this sort of stuff, research and stuff like that. So, to me, that's the sort of things that you just carry on doing all the time. Researching, reading new books, scoping out new sort of avenues of knowledge and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I uploaded a new video on Tuesday because I didn't have any time to do it on Wednesday. So, it was a review on Reliable Prepper's book, actually. Yeah. I just finished reading it. And
good. Out of 10? What would you give it out of 10?
Yeah, I could say give it. I think I had a 5 or 5 or 10 or 10. I don't remember what score.
Yeah.
I stuck to, but
thing is with most books. I mean, I just read a book this week. It's called Your Urban Crisis: Survival Planner by Suzanne Skov-Damer. She's a Danish international security expert who was providing a practical guide through crisis awareness and preparedness for yourself and your family. Got it here next to me. And I mean, to be honest, most of these books, they all cover the basic subjects really. None of them really delve into too much detail at all. Because I think the authors of most of these books are pretty generic and they're not a specialist. ACR.
Hey, CR, good to see you, brother.
It's a bit of a broad brush subject. Unless you're going to delve into a specific subject, you've got to be an expert at it, But I mean,
agree.
For most people, preppers and stuff like that, most of these books, they're good memory joggers. They're good things to have to remind people as to what to get, what to stock up on, what to train on, all this sort of stuff. So I wouldn't really knock anyone who does that sort of thing. It's really some good books out there. But yeah. I tend to find it's a bit like YouTube channels and stuff like that. I tend to find that the instead of looking at a sort of generic, if you're a prepper anyway and you're into that sort of thing, fine. You should really target a subject specific video, book, or something like that. If you like, if you're into solar weather and stuff like this, then you should start reading books specifically written by solar physicists and
Venerable Owl, good to see you, brother.
Venerable Owl. Hello, how you doing?
It's good to see you, brother. Well, as I said earlier, finding the perfect location is the topic for today's stream. So I guess we can put that as a bug out location or spare location or whatever you prefer to call it.
Yeah. I mean, when I first saw your title for this this subject, I thought to myself, there's a couple of aspects to it. I thought, the first thing that comes to mind immediately was there cannot be a perfect location for a start off, just a better location.
Than you are at the moment.
Yeah, because I don't think there's anywhere on Earth which isn't vulnerable to either natural disasters, social disruption. There's some elements of disorder thrown into any location. So all you can do is pick the best out of a bad bunch, really. Then I thought to myself, is the location you're in and your bug out location. I mean, bug out locations are a bit hard to keep, maintain, identify, and so on, unless you're moving to a group location with your group, or you're going to a relative's house or anywhere like this. Otherwise, an alternate location like a bug out location is going to be where it is very hard to maintain, stock up. And when you're fleeting about between one location and another, you've got two homes on the go effectively. And then on top of that, if you got a full-time job to do as well, it's just it can become that's your full-time. It takes all your time up, really. So
yeah, and the cost to run two places is pretty high too. So
yeah, well, I mean, I've got two places, but I can put one in stasis. So I'll go back once a month and just check everything, make sure run everything up, make sure it's ticking over okay, and fuel and heating system, the water system still working okay. It could be as simple as the shower head, which keep water running through the shower head and make sure it's sanitized, because they harbor Legionnaire's disease and things like this. If you leave them for a while and there's water settling in the system, that sort of stuff. But yeah, very hard to do. So I mean, another thing that springs to mind initially is if someone's actually seeking a better location or seeking to move to a better location. I mean, we are at the moment, we take up a lot of our time at the moment is spent researching and recceing different places to live, whether it be here or abroad. And that is quite an interesting exercise, actually, because there's so many avenues to delve into and to research. But again, it's full of pit holes as well. It can become very precarious. I think also you got to, if you are looking for the perfect location for you, then I think you got to decide what are the major threats. I think you got to divide them up into, I mean, there's generic threats that no one can escape. And we've seen one this week. So a generic threat that no one can escape is the power grid failing through a solar event. If you're on grid, you can go off grid. Worldwide nuclear war, for instance, they're generic threats, no matter how remote possibility they are. And then you can go down the chain, then look at the geographical threats of a certain area, floodplains, fault lines, how close you are to industrial areas, volcanoes, etc., etc. But on top of all that, the fallout of all those sort of events is then you got the social aspect of it, social disruption, social disorder, and this sort of thing. Does people want to move to a place where what's the religious demographics like in that place. If there's a big religious divide, I don't think people would like that sort of thing. It's a big X in the box for me for a start off.
Hey, Guardian, good to see you, brother.
Hey, Guardian, how you doing? So yeah, it's a big checklist if you are looking for your perfect location. Like I say, I spend quite a lot of time looking at different locations and stuff like that to move to, even if it's out of my scope of, capability. If I can't afford to move to Australia or New Zealand, for instance, I'll still research it. You never know what's going to happen in the future. So, the opportunity may come up in the future.
Yeah.
But I think people have got to look at a location. I mean, location is everything. Absolutely everything. It's the number one sort of prime factor which defines safety in this day and age. It's got to be, one thing that will affect you there in Sweden will not affect me at all. I won't even think about.
I agree.
Various things. It could be the cold or other aspects of it. So location is absolutely everything. Definitely. I think if anyone is considering a location that is good for them, then they've got to adopt the mindset of, there's not going to be an SHTF forever, or SHTF may never happen in terms of a complete collapse scenario, end of the world type stuff. So you've got to prepare for the generic things which may come and go: social disruptions, social disorder, rising crime, that sort of stuff. Research the statistics in those. But the key tick in the boxes for me is, I'm in my mid-50s now. I would make sure there's a hospital, medical care facility within 30 minutes traveling with me. I'd make sure there's a dentist that can treat me if I need to. I'd make sure there's shopping facilities and the ability to go and enjoy myself, leisure facilities, shopping facilities, an outdoor area, a good climate. I don't want to live in, when people get older, I don't want to start living in colder, windier, rainier, rough conditions. Yeah, it's just not.
Shannon.
It's not really.
Hello,
Shannon. It's not really conducive to a number one, a good mindset, or number two, a good healthy outlook. I think maximum respect to people in places like Alaska, but people like that sort of thing, and if you like it, then fair enough. If the situation means you have to move to real rough places, then the situation must be quite bad, to be honest. At the end of the day,
Law. Good to see you.
Hello, Backwards Law. At the end of the day, I think the number one overriding thing that will determine anything would be money. Basically, if you haven't got the money to move, then you obviously can't do it. And there's various people stuck in various locations that I know of that it's it can be a difficult situation. There are opportunities to swap, but they've got the pitfalls. So I mean, Vanessa said many get overwhelmed in disasters. Pandemic in 2020 was a prime example. Well, yeah,
indeed.
So that was an interesting time and exercise, actually. I use the word exercise loosely. I don't want to demean anyone who's lost anyone who died through the pandemic, but it was interesting in the terms of no matter where you were, everyone was affected because supply chain was affected, or hospital care was effective. Just about every aspect of lives was effective. Yeah. And the people that everyone looked on with envy, here in Britain especially, was the people with outside access to green space. So the ability to have your own garden, walking around your own garden. The ability to walk out your front door into a field or into a forested area, for instance. And most people are just confined to camp, really. They weren't allowed to. They weren't capable of going outside, even if they were talking to people over the fence and stuff like this. And the fear factor was immense. So I mean, that was a good wake up call for a lot of people, and a lot of people actually moved after the pandemic.
Yeah, they did.
But
hey, Anne, good to see you, ma'am.
Hello, Anne. But a lot of people also, a couple of years after the pandemic, they decided, so actually we made a mistake. We don't like it here. We want the convenience of being in a big city, so they moved back. I read one of those stories earlier on today. So that's my tick in the boxes. Number one, it's got to have access to medical care within 30 minutes, dentists, shops, leisure facilities, good green space for the outside, and anything else on top of that's a bonus. So on top of that, how do you do that? So another series of checking the boxes, look at crime statistics for the area you want to go to or the area you're in. And keep
that is a good idea.
Because, those crime statistics in the area you're in, you may just know the immediate area in terms of what's happening, but 3 miles, 6 miles beyond your area, the crime might be fluctuating, might be going up, might be going down. So even if you're not moving, I'd suggest check the crime statistics and keep a monitor of them. If you are considering moving to a new area, check the crime statistics on various websites. There's loads of them out there. The local crime police websites will probably do it. There's Crime Map. That's a good site to go onto. And I hate to say it, but another big factor for me is check if there's any social housing in your immediate area. Now, not tagging everyone who lives in social housing as problem people, but they're renowned for problem areas. You just tend to find that there's drugs and drink problem and social disruption and social disorder in those types of areas. I don't want to be, I don't want to appear to be snobbish or anything like that, but that's the way I see it, and I've seen it happen in many different locations. So
you just talk about from your own experience, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've found that everywhere that I've been or been near or known someone to be in social housing in Britain, there's been problems associated with that area, and for me, that would not be my perfect location. So that's another one on my checklist. So hand in hand with those comes drugs, drink, crime, and it
exactly
just escalates from there. You don't want to be around it, and when resources get scarce due to a power grid that's gone down, or a disruptive cyber attack, or someone rioting, or someone deciding that they want to support a different country's war and start demonstrating, all this sort of stuff. That's not my perfect location at all. So that's my reason for the social housing tick in the box. And likewise, look at religious demographics as well. I wouldn't want to move to an area where the village is polarized because 50% are one religion, 50% are the other religion. It's a problematic thing, and I think everyone can see that sort of thing happening in towns and cities now, no matter where you are in the world. And if anyone denies that, then they need to climb out of the box they're in or the hole they're in and take a good look at what's happening around, because things are going to get worse.
Thank you, Venerable Al, for the link. In the US, you can check the crime rate stats in the cities. So, at the link is posted. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Most people don't know there are those websites. You can check those.
Yeah, that's right. You can just do a local search and they'll come up. Or you can just follow the local newspapers for a certain area for a while. And that's what I would do if I was considering moving to an area. I would look at the local newspapers and see what sort of events are happening in that area. I've just had another solar alert.
I figured.
So we're up to a KP8 again on the index. Yeah.
Blue collar crime, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't really enjoy being amongst a crowded area anymore. I would prefer.
Hey, ex Nick OG Prepper, good to see you, brother.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
So yeah, I don't enjoy being in busyness anymore. I would prefer this is the toss up in it. CR, bloody hell, you made an early appearance.
Yeah, good to see you, brother.
Ta-da! Ta-da!
Guest appearance by CR. So yeah, the old argument.
Let you guys have all the fun.
Oh well, yeah, go on. You can contribute whatever. Just chip in. So I was saying it comes back to the old argument, urban or rural. But they've got the pros and cons. If you're too rural, then you are vulnerable in terms of you've got no support, and the villains out there know that you've got no support. You're out on a limb, and they know that if you call for help, then help isn't going to arrive too quickly. So they've got an opportunity, a window of opportunity to do what they've got to do and get away. But on the other hand, being in a mega urban environment, mega city, or whatever you want to call it, that's got its drawbacks too. So somewhere in between, in my scope, a nice little community just on the edge of a town would be ample, as long as it's got those facilities that I've said I would like: hospital, dentist, shopping, etc.
Place to get coffee.
Well, yeah, all those sorts of things that because it might never happen. Nothing might ever happen. Things just might get slowly worse and worse and worse, like we've seen, like social entropy. So I think a good tick in the box would be a location by the sea, because the sea offers a whole range of opportunities for foraging and fishing. I think it's good for the mind, body, and soul as well. Being next to the sea, you can't beat being next to the sea. Walking along the beach, you're picking up driftwood. It's good for the mind. I think you never know what you're going to find. Something different every day. You've got the sea life there. It's a good place in which
it sure is. I'm sorry, guys. I had to say that.
It's a good place. It's a good place to relate to the natural world, the real world, as opposed to the digital world that we've created and most people live in these days.
Hey, Guardian, good to see you, brother.
Guardian, how you doing?
Oh, okay. Now it's a party.
Now, Guardian will know the benefits of the sea. If you see the beaches in his videos, that is awesome stuff. And though people who live next to the sea, if they relocate and move inland, it's a massive loss. I've lived next to the sea quite a lot of my life, and when I moved inland a while, I think it felt like something was missing.
Yeah, it actually makes people. Hi, everybody, too. That's in the chat as well. Good to see the people that are with us this evening. And what you're saying is absolutely true when it comes down to people that move away from the coastlines. You also find that quite often, like the general demeanor between people who live by the coast as well are a lot more relaxed and calm and down to earth. I'm not saying in every case, but for the most part, it definitely does allow for that type of lifestyle more, which in turn, increases the culture of relaxation more and that type of thing too. But I think, ideologically, as a preparedness, somebody who's focusing on preparedness, when it does come down to the utility of the ocean is always giving. And if you can be near the ocean, plus have a river nearby you, you are so sorted. Like when it comes to certain things. But what I'll just say something about what you said there, preparedness veteran. You're absolutely right. Having a small community can be key. However, the only one downside is you've got to be careful of that proximity of that specific community, as opposed to like a large city nearby. You want it to be an isolated small city or a small town. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
One that is close to where there's a large amount of people, that when the resources in the city go blank, well, you're the next target. So you got to look out for a place that's preferably like quite far away, near the ocean, with a bit of river too, some mountains, some dense forest, some dense, place where you'll obviously be able to resource a lot of materials as well. So yeah, it's absolutely awesome. I really think that this topic's great, Shadow. Thank you for facilitating it.
You're very welcome, Jordan.
There was back in the just after the Second World War, there was a bloke from Switzerland. It was a Swiss intelligence agent, and the bloke's name was Albert Bachmann. And Albert Bachmann, what he did was he spent years researching what the safest place in Europe would be in the event of a nuclear war. And all his research, it all came down to one location, and that was the southwest portion of Ireland, and specifically a town called West Cork in Ireland, because it was isolated, it was rural, and it was specifically talking about the nuclear threat because of the southwest prevailing winds, and he determined it was the safest place in Europe to survive a nuclear war in the initial stages. I mean, thereafter, I don't know what he was going to do thereafter, but in the initial stages, yeah. There's also another piece of research I read about. I can't remember who the name of the researcher, but he determined that when it comes to America, for instance, the safest place in America is a town in California called Eureka, because it's right on the west coast of America, a real westerly point. It's almost a landlocked port of about 30,000 people. It's a couple of 100 miles away from San Francisco. It's more than 100 miles away from the nearest sort of likely big target. And it was determined that it was possibly the safest stretch of west coast of America, as in natural threats as well. Obviously, you got the fault line there, but it's south of the heavy rainfall zone of the northwest, apparently. So yeah, it's various. Depends how much. The more you read about things. I mean, I've just had a message there from one of my friends there asking me a bit. I'm the consultant on solar flares, apparently. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, no problem.
You know, I just noticed that you're wearing sunglasses. I just noticed that.
Yeah, that's one reason for that. It's so bright here, so I need to have sunglasses because my eyes are so light sensitive, so my eyes hurts.
I see.
Yeah.
So I was thinking the perfect location, right? I mean, like I know we're generally talking about like if you're physically moving to a place, but a perfect location for a lot of things, right? It's like, because if you think about it, when you go camping, you're always trying, let's find a good location to camp. Or if you go to a place, let's find a perfect spot to take a seat. And you're always trying to figure it out, right? Usually there's some guidelines, not guidelines, but...
Hey, Prepper for the Ages. Good to see you, ma'am.
I prepper for the ages. But there's usually...
the ages.
Oh, welcome back, PB. But
Yeah,
PB, I was always thinking the perfect location. You always have things in mind, right? What you want from the space, or like, for example, if you were at a concert, the perfect location would be like, hey, where I can actually see, but and still get out if I have to. Or if you go camping, maybe where there's shade for my tent. Maybe it's the water's not that far away, so I don't have to go far, and all that's these little things that you think of, right?
I think
If you think of
I think the perfect location has got to be threat free and have the ability to sustain you. So sustain you in terms of off-grid power. So a stream, so you got a water supply there as well. Fertile soil, a good source of sunlight, and ripe with natural resources.
Yes.
I think at times though, you will find almost a balance between a place that is perfect for settling for a good amount of time compared to a place that's close to in proximity to other larger scales of population. And I think what a person has to do is kind of measure that out, because obviously, as you can imagine, some of the most ideal locations may actually be less ideal geographically when it comes to resources, but essentially much more, better suited at just being far away enough from people, or to having land that is preferable to actually making people avoid it. Rough water rivers, for example, on the other side of that can sometimes aid you in terms of early warning systems as well. And also when it comes to location, if we're speaking about that, height can play a really good factor in terms of having a good bug out location. So having advantage to be able to see out ahead of you as well when people are coming, because you want to be able to know when people are coming and how they're coming, which also leads to the fact that strategically, if you look around mountainsides as well, certain caves and certain mountain regions themselves can actually be really good in terms of territory.
And just to add to that, for some of you out there that do a lot of camping or practice bushcrafting, right? You may have heard those what's the 4 W's? Water, wood, widowmakers, I think wildlife. I forget what all 4. There's a list anyways, right? These things that you look out for. So how close am I to the water? Is there any widowmakers above me that could, fall on my tent or shelter of sorts, right? How plentiful is the wood? Maybe it gets cold in the area, so you need firewood, for example. So stuff like that.
And I agree with Dana B here, adapt, improvise, overcome.
Yeah. Yeah, height is definitely a factor, even if you live by the sea, because you've got to consider storm surges and the threats from the sea. Storm surges, potential tsunamis, and also runoff from high areas as well, channeling down. And if you live next to a small river by the sea, for instance, and you're in an estuary or whatever, then you've seen it in the past that they can swell up drastically through rain hundreds of miles away and so on. There's a little town or a little village in Britain called Boscastle, which is right on an estuary, small little river, right on the sea. And it was in a valley, this tight, small valley, this little village. And the rains one day, which developed into 2 days, 3 days, and 4 days, accumulated. The little village didn't know nothing about it until the big torrent of water swayed through the village and destroyed half the village and killed a load of people. So you've also got to look beyond the immediate area and consider the wider scope of things and how they will potentially impact your location as well. But height is definitely a consideration, the flooding. I mean, we're seeing a lot here. We're seeing a lot more houses being built really quick, and a lot of them tend to be appear to be built on floodplains these days, which is just completely bizarre. One location I wouldn't pick, definitely not a low-lying floodplain. Like I say, these sorts of things could take a long time to scope out. If you picked, big and small map stuff, pick a sort of region you want to go to, and then gradually pinpoint it down to a location based on your particular factors that you would want. But for me, it would be threat minimization, the ability to carry on, sustain myself if everything was to go completely pig tong. Fertile land, a good solar source, water source, and potential for hunting and fishing as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome if you had those possibilities. That is what I'm looking for. Good water source and close to a lake.
Oh,
for fishing.
That reminds me. Maybe doing some research on the back history of that area, wherever it is in the world. Try to find out more what historical things have happened in the past, for whatever it is. Could be anywhere. Ocean, inland, on an island, on a mountain.
Well, yeah, there's various. I mean, it's various. There's sites that I would go to. I've got a couple listed here somewhere.
Well, I mean, I meant more maybe from like people that live there, right? Or people that actually live there, right? Because
local knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, because there's nothing. Because they'll tell you stuff that never appeared on the news, never appeared on any website, right? They'll tell you, "Oh yeah, I saw this their week," right?
I mean, I'll begin with looking at things like the Global Peace Index, which will give you an immediate, quick, broad brush indication of low crime rates in a specific country. And if you were to Google, what are the highest ranking Global Peace Index countries in the world, and this is one for you, Shadow. The Nordic countries, Iceland, Denmark, Ireland. Then you've got New Zealand and Austria type places.
South Africa's really high up there too.
In the low crime rate aspect. So yeah, things like the Global Peace Index, there's another one, but I can't think of offhand at the moment. But it talks about and it ranks each country in terms of happiness as well. This sort of thing.
Yeah, I've seen the ranks of happiness too. So
yeah, look at the World Population Review. And the good thing about it at the moment is we got the whole source of the internet to start scoping out places. And one that consistently comes up, funnily enough, is New Zealand, which is, fantastic country, well placed. The resources are fantastic, etc., etc. No wonder all the billionaires want to move there and build their secret bunkers there, as the rumors go. But it's the problem is when you find out, another country is better than the one you're in. It's not as easy as it sounds, especially if you're under the age of 50, because you've got to have a specific job that they want. You might be the target country may have a rank scoring system.
Yeah.
Fine if you can tick those boxes. You might have to have a sponsor for that country. If you're over the age of 50 or 55, depending on what country it is, then it gets even harder. You've got to have a means of self-supporting yourself and contributing to the country. And we're talking, a lot of countries out there, we're talking in the region of $250,000 worth of contribution, and stability to get to move to those countries. It's not as easy as it sounds. And on top of that, no matter what country you go to, you will always be the foreigner in that country.
So it sounds quite strange, but a person actually, if you're in a third world country that's struggling with high levels of corruption, yada yada, like us, then a person as you go through life, you kind of it sounds quite dark, but you kind of accept your fate and you learn to actually look for the silver linings as best as you can. Because of course there are, many things that I could mention, and I try not to ever complain about my country. I really, really try not to. But when it comes down to the silver linings, there are absolutely definite silver linings. If you're in a country that is struggling, for example, However, with the inflation, it's so bad that like the amount and how bad the inflation year is ridiculous. Year by year, we are being completely strangled when it comes to like an economical standpoint that any of us are on. Like we really, really struggle here. Like the amount and the price of milk and everything, the way it goes up consistently. I know across the world we're all experiencing it, right? But it's just so bad. But the silver lining absolutely is that we have such a openness in the country as well, and an extreme level of, tourism. And if we treat the country as a tourist on the outside, there's so many beautiful things to see about South Africa.
Yeah,
I just want to see the beach.
Subscribe to his channel, you'll see it.
No, I do see the in real life. I meant.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Well, there are some really nice countries out there that are let down through various factors. A lot of people think Britain is great. You try coming here and you'll realize it isn't, from my perspective. You might want to go to, some people might go to New Zealand and think, well, yeah, that's not actually great. It's full of motorbike clubs or gangs, whatever you want to call them. And, I think there's got to be a stable sort of benchmark of livability. You cannot move to a country that's constantly unstable. It depends on the long-term future of that country, the socioeconomic stability and so on and so on. I would look for a country with a strong track record of political stability and economic opportunity, really. And one of the countries that I scoped out a couple of years ago was Singapore, which is, it's a very small country. It is a hot place. It's got a robust economy, real low level political corruption. And they've got their stuff
cheap to live there too.
Exactly, yeah. They look after it, and they respect the old elders and all this sort of stuff. But for me, that's just a no-goer. It's just too hot. Absolutely, it's like 1 degree north of the equator. It's just it'll cripple me.
Yeah, I understand preparedness better, and that's why not a lot of people come here to Canada. It's the cold, apparently.
Likewise, climate plays a big factor. It might be too.
It does.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right. You get a lot of people who may not realise it. Yeah, you get a lot of people who may not realise it until they move there that they suffer with seasonal affective disorder and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, from SAD and stuff.
And Nick Miller says you would have to be able to blend into local communities if you go to a different country area. Yeah.
You know what I was thinking? I was just thinking about this, and I can relate this into the preparedness part, is to actually go to that place beforehand, right?
Oh,
Just like if you're bugging out, right? You are a location or whatever, you check it out beforehand, right? That way you kind of know it because you experienced it firsthand.
Yeah.
Even for a bit, for a week or so, right? Because then you could talk to the local people, stuff like that, get local knowledge of whatever happened, right? Historical records and stuff like that. And be like, okay, so this is the kind of heat they're talking about. It's not that bad.
So there's another thing as well.
It's like kind of.
Hi, Kay.
Hi.
Kay's
Say hi.
Hey.
It's off topic now, but I said it to Guardian now. And here in South Africa, if, for example, some SHTF scenario were to happen, a great benefit that we have is we have just so much food that just grows naturally. It's there's really, if you know what to eat around us, you'll never go hungry because
I'm moving there.
So much food.
It really is.
I'm moving there right now.
It's also one of the reasons.
You're welcome to, and it's warm weather with beaches.
Yes, it's one of the reasons why some of the cultural lives were sedentary, because there wasn't that much of a need outside of hunting and gathering. You didn't have that much of a requirement to to do mass scale agriculture or anything like that.
Like if
when
you
the seasons
really
were good.
don't like snakes, you can go to Scotland because they have none. Like, or that's what I've heard. They've
Scotland.
got no natural snakes. Like in Scotland.
Scotland have got adders and grass snakes. Adders are we've only got one resident poisonous species.
Maybe
Yeah,
that there's
there
no
aren't.
poisonous ones, but that's really cool because some people are very scared of snakes.
New Zealand as well. That's snake free, I think, as well. A lot of people wouldn't. I know some people who don't even want to go to Australia because it's got the top 10 deadliest snakes in the world, all the nasty big spiders, all the nasty big plants, and so on and so on.
It's hot there. I don't like the outback.
We also have like super poisonous like plants and venomous snakes and spiders and stuff like that. We've got like the black mamba and stuff like that, but we're so used to it. So like for us, even Australia sounds scary, but their spiders are another thing, apparently. Like
Next level
like,
creepers, yeah.
they've got like a whole spider spray that they have to do to keep them out.
They've also got the plague. In Australia, those plagues at the moment. Those animal plagues are some of the worst. That impact agriculture.
Mice and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why Australians walk around with oversized flip flops because they've got to use them to squash the spiders with. Yeah, and that's some nasty stuff there. But I mean, like people were saying here, there's so many factors involved that. But we know when it comes down to an actual location that's sustainable, I think. You've ruled out the crime, you've ruled out the natural hazards and stuff like this. It's got to be the tick in the boxes for sustainability, fertile land for growing, the available opportunity for hunting, foraging, fishing, and stuff like that. Because any sort of incident, the supply chain will be gone or collapsing, and where do you go after that? Your supplies only last so long, so you've got to be in a fertile situation, and you've got to have the ability to harness your own power through solar, for instance, or
maybe it's wind or water.
Or wind or water, yeah, and hunting, fishing, foraging.
Yeah. Enjoy it as much as you possibly can. That's another side to it. Psychologically, try and have fun outdoors. Have fun with gardening, with building things.
Not just that, actually go camping, because camping is really fun and it's a way to like acclimate yourself to like that type of thing, like boiling water on a fire in the morning, and then you do it in like a comfortable space and you can get comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
Without having to like all of a sudden throw yourself, so to speak, into the deep end.
And then you do it in like open, then you do it like open hanging caves and stuff as well. Like that's a nice progression as well, to go from like camping to more like of wild camping, where you just take like one of the mattresses as well, like a fold mattress, a sleeping bag, and that's pretty much your tent is the overhang. So there are a lot of ways to kind of go a bit more wild when it comes to that as well. But essentially just making sure that you have a lot of fun with all of that. Like even these conversations, the type of conversations that we have as well, like are conversations that definitely run in tandem.
Good evening, Huga. Good to see you, CB.
Hi, CB.
Hello, Huga.
Yeah, I agree with you, Guardian. Yeah, you and Kay. Because camping is one of those things that reconnect you with, well, the land out there, the water, the air out there, right? Because usually you're doing it kind of more remote, out of the way of the normal everyday things that you do, and you seem to appreciate the little things at times, right? That little bottle of water you had, the water you brought, and all that stuff. You realize how important this stuff is, right? And important, and not taking for granted something like AC, right? When it's hot out, right? It's like, just take a swim through the pond, the river, or whatever instead, right? You do something like that instead. You realize how important those things are to you when you don't have them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and to piggyback on what you said earlier, Preparedness Manager, about, well, basically, you need to have the resources around to sustain you in that area. Whatever, some means of water, obviously the food aspect, right? Maybe the growing season's longer. Maybe there's wildlife, fishing, foraging. It's more, let's say, like a growing zone that's down higher, like let's say 9. So it's not too hot, but it's not. But there's enough wild game or wild edibles and such, right? And the land's fertile enough for what it is, or in time you could build it up, and stuff like that. Because without the resources, you ain't getting far. You won't last that long.
There's a lot of countries in the world that get bypassed, and areas within countries as well. I mean, I hear a lot of people talking that they want to leave Britain, for instance, and they're looking at places like Portugal, Italy, Spain, and stuff like this. But they overlook elements within Britain as well. A lot of places are hidden out the way, nice locations. They tick all the boxes, and a lot of people just forget about them. And there's quite a lot in Britain, for instance. You got elements of Scotland. You got Norfolk, which is the east coast of England. There's the Isle of Wight, which is a large island of the south coast, very warm. You've got the Isles of Scilly, parts of Wales. Each have got their pluses and minuses, but they're often overlooked by people because all they see is, oh, well, I just want to get out of Britain. I'm going abroad and this sort of stuff. But language is the first barrier you come across. Language, for instance. I'd suggest to anyone, if you're going to move to a different country, the language, and when you move there, all the laws, customs, rules, and regulations, and you fit in. You become,
and don't bring your problems with you.
Exactly. So if you want to move to Spain,
bring your problems with you.
Yeah. So if you want to move to Spain, become Spanish. Fly the Spanish flag. Don't fly the English flag. You're not English anymore. You left that for a reason, etc., etc., etc. It just, at the end of the day, you move to these countries and you start bringing your own country with you. You just start pissing people off, and it's just not good. Likewise, a lot of these smaller communities, I'll give you an example. Some of these small Scottish islands in Great Britain, unless you were born there, you will never be considered an islander. Even if you move there as a 4-year-old child and you live there for the rest of your life, by the time you're 70 years old, there'll be still people talking to you, talking about you. Well, you're not a real islander, because you wasn't born here, and this sort of stuff. So some of these little communities can get really nationalistic, cliquey. Cliquey, really,
yeah.
So all well and dandy until things kick off. You've got to be wary. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, no, this will remind me of something about picking a location. Is to also pick a location that you can still leave the location if you have to, for whatever the reason is. So to tie this back into the preparedness part, because just like you said, there's pros and cons for every location, right? Because of the cons, that whatever it is, by the sea, you may have to randomly go inland for a time period, for example. Or if you're in the forest area, you may have to leave because there's a fire in the area. And those things you have to deal with. You can't really dodge them, right? It's an eventuality. Eventually it will happen in time, at least once. All right, so.
Yeah, that should be part of people's initial research as well. The generic sort of threats for that area. So you might be moving to an area which is prone to forest fires or floods, tsunamis, earthquakes, and so on.
Heat, tornadoes and stuff like that, right? So if you're on the Pacific, obviously the Pacific Rim with earthquakes and stuff like that, very high chance for that, for what it is. So.
But, likewise, we're talking about, you got to consider financial considerations as well. What's the cost of living in the place you're moving to? Is it financially sustainable in case nothing ever kicks off. House prices,
Hey, Hardback, good to see you.
property taxes, all these sort of other expenses.
Mhm.
So you got to balance affordability with the safety of the location you're going to. It's this is why it
Well,
takes
yeah,
so long.
you need money to get there. You need money to
money
move.
to get there. Yeah,
Yeah,
but like I say, once you're
airplane.
there, once you're there, I mean, I've picked various locations. There's a fantastic island that I'd like to go to just off the coast of Britain, but it relies completely on import electricity. Water isn't a problem. Everything's imported. All the goods are imported, so everything's got extra taxes on it. Everything's slightly more expensive. So you go there, fine. You get there, breathe a sigh of relief. Yeah, I'm in a really good location, and then all the bills start coming in. Then, oh, hang on a minute. My disposable income isn't what I thought. It's gone sliced in half, sort of thing, and you start to struggle, and then you start to question: was it actually a good move moving here because my quality of life has gone down, not up? So they've, you've just considered the safety factor of survivability in any sort of event, as opposed to normal day-to-day living, which can be as destructive in the end if you can't afford to live there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that goes back to like getting the knowledge, getting some not experience, but knowing the land, wherever it is.
Yeah,
knowing it from the locals and stuff like that, right? And
I was going to say,
people way beforehand.
Yeah, when you said that before,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say when you said that before, I'd never go to somewhere blind. I would go there. I would spend, multiple visits over months or years, getting to know the place, feet on the ground, talking to people, and getting to know the customs, the climate, and etc.
Yeah, because some people are there leave an area without a choice because they have to. Immigrants, immigration, all that stuff's happening throughout the world now. Not just in the US, right?
Be willing to be adaptable too. Like wherever you go, it's also key that you are, comfortable at change as well, changing what you need to within your own lifestyle as well to suit that specific area. And that's why it is obviously very dangerous to move to an area that is completely opposite from the current lifestyle that you have. And then obviously when it comes to economy, you need to look at the exchange rates to where you're going and the type of employment opportunities that are in that place. Currently, obviously, for post-SHTF types of scenarios, like the resources as well. And then if you've researched and really done what you should be doing is all the homework on your current region, essentially moving to another area really does make sure that you've got to basically start from scratch again. You've got to start researching all the fauna and flora in that area. You've got to start understanding the region, the landscapes, the geographical position where you are, where you need to be, like escape routes, all sorts of cache areas. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I went to a veterans meeting the other day. We meet once a week, and, just chat for a couple of hours about all sorts of stuff. One bloke there used to go to New Zealand regularly, and he said that it's quite easy to actually move and get nationalised in New Zealand. And in the end, he was trying to convince us to move over there. Even at your age, it's no problem. You'll get straight in and all this sort of stuff. When you pension, you can sustain yourself, etc., etc. And I thought to myself, well, what? There's no way I'd do that. If I was to move to somewhere like New Zealand, for instance, I mean, it's almost an 18-hour plus flight, at least. And I would not even consider moving there unless I've spent a couple of years moving backwards and forwards and really getting to know the place. I just wouldn't feel comfortable. But the luxury, so the luxury we've got at the moment is we've got the luxury of choice within your country or whatever. You've got time on your hands. You don't want to be pressured into making rash decisions when you're under extreme pressure, when you've got to move. So you're better off probably wrecking places now to find a better location or the perfect location for you. Because under pressure, then it's a whole different scenario. You're talking about bugging out then.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna bring up for the Switch.
Yeah.
It's just like finding a bug out location, a BOL, right? I mean, because if you're being rushed into it, then it may not be as perfect or ideal as it seems. And it's like,
No.
oh, I didn't realize there was no water here.
I know a local shopkeeper who had to get out of the country quickly. I think it was Uganda. Can't remember. But they wore their wealth out the country in terms of jewelry and gold and all this sort of stuff. And that's what they turned up with, and they carried on going. But they didn't have, well, I don't know, but the point is we got time on our hands to determine a better location and stuff like this. Now, if you got the choice and you can do it, seek better opportunities and do it. Moving abroad is a whole new ball game, and something not to be taken lightly. Definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to go on vacation somewhere when you know you're coming back, but it's totally different. Do you guys want to move here?
Because people have got to consider. You might go to a different country, for instance, and it ticks all the boxes and etc. Perfect location. Then when they reach pension age, they will suddenly discover that they're not actually entitled to the pension that they thought they were entitled to because they weren't born there, they haven't done enough time, they haven't contributed enough to the tax system and so on. So it gets messy. Sooner rather than later, I'd suggest.
I mean, for this metric, I mean, it's not saying that it's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't live there. Something like that. You hear people saying that.
Oh yeah, Florida is a classic example. I used to follow a guy called Jeff Grillo on YouTube. Throttle Up Prepper, his name was. He stopped doing videos now. He was a blind guy. Anyway, he used to live in Florida. He moved away from Florida, and he basically said, "Yeah, good place to visit, but not a good place to live because it gets hammered with destructive storms every year, and it's
hard
to long-term living." Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that sounds not fun.
You've got to look at where a country is at the present time, like right now, and then where they have been in the last several decades. And it usually will give you, not always a direct indicator, because there are certain things that disrupt the flow of it, but there are absolutely major indicators that you can see where a country was, where it is now, and where it's heading. And that is obviously also leaning on what's happening in that country politically. So if you've got a country where things are looking like they're on the decline every decade, like by a very large margin, then the most logical thing that you can do is basically look for an escape route,
Yeah, I can think of two countries like that. One would be Poland. Poland is an up-and-coming, vibrant country at the moment, safe, stable, patriotic, etc. But you go back Second World War, or post-Second World War into the Cold War, and it was behind the Iron Curtain, suppressed by the Russian regime and all this sort of stuff. And the other country I can think of, Vietnam, is a up-and-coming, vibrant economy at the moment. It was only in the 70s that was Vietnam War. So yeah, I see what Guardian means there.
Yeah.
Looking back through history plays a definite key role.
My cousin moved there a couple of years ago and is actually doing extremely well for himself. He's my younger cousin, and he's teaching English, and he's been living in Vietnam for I think 6 years now. And he's getting married at the end of next month to a Vietnamese lady that's over there on that side as well. But such an amazingly good couple together, like both very intellectual people. And he went from just teaching English online to doing it on the ground now as well, like actual in-person teacher. And it's just fantastic to see how he's been able to settle down there. Vietnam, as you're saying, at the moment is doing really well for itself, except for the air quality. That's the only really one of the. Yeah, he's also vegan, so it fits in pretty well, like, on that side too.
Right. I love stories like that. I think they're great. What you just said there. I used to speak to a Vietnamese guy. He was called himself Defender, and he was a university student, and he was the one who tipped me off about COVID when it first kicked off. The first inklings of it back in December, and I took heed of what he said, looked into it, and by January I was topping up my preps, buying threat-specific equipment for sick rooms and stuff like that, and I got to the point where I got my vehicle checked over for safety check, the annual safety check MOT, and I said to the guy, I said, I want to do it now because in case we get locked down. Oh no, that'll never happen. A month later, there we are, all clapping to the sky, and bloody ordering online, ridiculous. So yeah, Vietnam's must be a really nice place.
Can I chime in real quick here? Because I know.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
I know Backwoods Wall was saying about he doesn't want to go to Florida because of the hurricanes. He doesn't want to go to Oklahoma because of the tornadoes. Right? Sometimes you just got to pick the best of the worst of the con. How's the saying go? You have to pick the best out of the worst.
Best of a bad bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. What he said. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Deal with the cold than a hurricane, a snowstorm than a hurricane. Ideally, I think I'm more prepared for that. But
I talk to people a lot of the time, and there's a lot of disgruntled people out there talking about the situation at the moment, and they want to move away from crime-ridden areas and this sort of stuff. And a couple of key things, generic things, come up all the time, and they're
Hey, Tammy, good to see you, man.
Hello, Rebel Cannons.
Hi, Tammy.
They're not willing to move because of relatives. That's a big tick in the box. They've got parents who are stuck in their ways in a certain location, and they don't want to move too far away from them because when they get ill, or they may be ill at the moment, you're backwards and forwards doing your son-daughter duty thing, relations,
friends, family,
relations. Yeah, and the other one is jobs.
Work.
You can't just up sticks and move and say goodbye to your job unless you got another one secured in the place you're going to. It's just not conducive to a fruitful life. Money makes things go around.
I think one of the times that can be the only way that you're able to combat that, because absolutely you're on the money 100% when you speak about that too. The only way for you to combat that would be to have an outstanding resume. And if you held jobs in specific locations for a good amount of time, and you've been working consistently for well over 1 or 2 decades, and you've got an extremely good track record with amazing references behind you, with excellent positions where you've worked, and you've really climbed the ladder and put in the grunt work for it. That, and I'm speaking about myself in a specific situation as well, I'm very grateful to have the opportunities that I've had that allow me to kind of have that broad spread of engagement within the working field, and that experience to be able to market myself correctly, to be able to walk into positions where they're requiring people of a certain particular skill set.
Funnily enough, that Vietnam guy I was talking about, Vietnamese guy, one of the opening questions he asked me was about some life advice sort of thing, because it was at university. I said to him, well, I would, if I go back in time, pick a route, a trade, a specialist subject, be the expert at that subject. Thereafter, you'll be the go-to person, and you'll never be unwanted, if you like, for that particular thing. You might be the master craftsman, the master welder, the financial guru, whatever, but specialize in something and you'll always be wanted. and I don't know what he's doing now because he sort of departed the forum and never heard of again. But shame, really. But yeah,
trade skill, just general trade skill is brilliant to have. You're absolutely right. Like you'll always have food on your table with that. Even in the world of AI and everything, like even though we're progressing so fast, like having carpentering experience or something like that, or plumbing, or like it's what you're saying, you know, even like your manufacturing type stuff is being replaced slowly and surely by technology, but there is certain trades absolutely that will always be able to stick with you if you have the ability to do so. Like even electrical as well is a big one.
I mean, there's if anyone looks at the New Zealand immigration policy or the Australian immigration policy, where they talk about the point system, they're always after specific trades, and some of these trades are bizarrely easy to learn. You know, hairdresser is high up on the list. Obviously, the generic ones like doctors, dentists, and stuff like that. But surprising, some of the trades these countries want.
Give me 3 years, preparedness veteran. I'm going to become the best hairdresser you've ever met, ever.
You can't practice on yourself.
Maybe practice on your missus.
Oh no, he did.
Well, I can't practice on myself either, but yeah.
Well, you have your missus you can practice on.
Oh yeah, the missus. That's always a good one to practice on.
Right.
But if you get it wrong, you'll get the wooden spoon or the rolling pin, and she won't go out of the house for about 3 months till it grows back.
You give me a brilliant idea about the hairdresser thing, though. Like, I think it's not just myself. 1 or 2 other people are like sparks are going off. Like, wait, hairdresser? Wait, what? Where can I go to a hairdresser?
I'm picturing you getting the evils now off of Kay there. You're not practicing on me.
No. Fortunately, she's left a little bit earlier, so she's not right here at the moment. But she is able to hear what I'm saying, so I need to be cautious. Anyway.
I'll tell you a success story. One of my friends, she used to work in a bank, and it got to the point where, shall I retire early? Shan't I? So she did. Retired at about 55, I think it was. Anyway, she did a complete reversal of career change, and she went to the local college and done a course in eyelashes and nails and stuff like that. Sort of a beautician types. It was mainly eyelashes. Anyway, she then started up her own business from her house, reserved one of the bedrooms in the house, started the business, and she's completely independent now, self-sufficient, rolling in it. We're talking 40 grand plus a year, self-sustained business, all from, the one little bedroom, overheads a minimum, stuff like this, and, tremendous success story. But it's all about, it's starting to strand off to a different subject here. It's all about exposure to advertising and letting people know.
I love that we went all the way into different career choices and stuff as well.
Actually, Venerable Owl has a question, actually. Have anyone on the panel been forced to leave their primary residence due to a natural or man-made disaster? If so, what lessons did they learn from that? I can't say I have.
No, but it can happen.
I haven't, no.
But it can happen.
So we have consistent threats. I don't know how well you know about if you're South African or perhaps but which nationality you're from. But here in South Africa, we have quite often consistent threats of certain things that happen, like upheaval of the whole country. We had, just because a particular member within the political sphere was jailed, we had an extreme upheaval and rioting within our country within like just 2 to 3 years ago. Not only that, But because we are so sensitive in terms of our just-in-time delivery service and how our unemployment is and that type of thing, but because of those types of scenarios, the man-made disaster that could occur, if we were to go through something like that, like our residence is completely jeopardized very, very easily. So not only that, but there's been situations throughout my life where I've lost home and I was homeless for about 1.5 years. So that's also where I've had to struggle, and I stayed in a city called Cape Town. You're probably familiar with it. So upwards about 1 year roughly, where I stayed on the streets and that too. So I think that from that experience, I definitely learned that you need to be kind and friendly, and you need to be adaptable, and you need to just and people are your greatest resource when it comes to surviving if you're on the streets. If you do so in a courteous and nice way, don't walk over people to climb positions, but rather like be genuine and kind and friendly, and ask people for help in a nice way, and then return the favor, and you'll be surprised what comes in after that. So definitely learned a large amount of willingness to be involved in community, and there's a lot of the story behind me that comes from that specific endeavor, where I was using cardboard to stay warm in the evenings during the extreme thunderstorms, and I was being treated at times in horrible ways and whatever, but that's just part of that type of lifestyle. What I'm saying about all of it is just be adaptable at all times and have a mindset that is enduring.
Yeah.
Go on, Guardian. I like when you talk like this.
Prepper for
It's
the
so
ages
inspiring.
says my Florida friends had to leave. The hurricane destroyed their pool, septic, etc., and left the whole island without power for weeks. They couldn't get back to their place for a week.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of
that's tough.
things about
The Keys,
Florida
right?
in the
Keys,
hurricane
right, I think?
season. They've also got a big sinkhole problem as well in certain areas. Personally, me, I haven't had to endure any disaster. However, I have been to quite a few disaster zones, conflict zones, and so on and so on, landslides and stuff like this, floods, foot and mouth disease, contingency plans, all that sort of stuff. But yeah.
So I'll speak quickly about the perfect location, which is, finding the perfect location, SHTF for bug outs. Obviously, just a quick wrap up on these main points, right? If anybody's listening and they really are thinking about perfect locations during SHTF. So obviously, when it comes to elevation, be very cautious of being in a valley, because valleys get extremely cold, and also make sure that you're not at the top of a mountain either, because at the top of the mountain, all of the wind goes over the mountain as well. So your location needs to be nestled about 3/4 up the way of a mountain as well. And preferably when it comes to vegetation, you want pretty good coverage in vegetation, but too much coverage and too much vegetation does encourage a lot of wildlife. And while you're sleeping in the evenings, you can be vulnerable to turning over and rolling onto spiders, or rolling, there's a lot of things, creepy crawlies out at night, depending on where you are. When it comes to how easy it is to find food as well, not only food, but where you're able to, use the restroom far enough away from your current location that won't, lure anything either, from when it comes to the various places that you need to store. When it comes to food as well, make sure 100% wherever you are that there's also good enough pathways that can be detected. It's what we were talking about earlier, about having visibility over certain areas. When it comes to how large of an area as well that you need, try to keep your area as compact as possible, because the more compact that you have of an SHTF bug out location, these type of things, when it comes to that, you want to be able to be, invisible as much as possible. You don't want to be, you want to have OPSEC, operational security. So you want to make sure that everything you have as well. And when you do use things, obviously use things like Dakota fire holes, so that the Dakota fire pits, that you can keep the smoke to a minimum. And then when it comes down to how often you leave things out, make sure after you've used something that you conceal everything that you used as well. So be practical and logical when it comes to everything. Look, when it's in a situation that's really rubbish and horrible, survival type scenario, you're also going to be extremely stressed. So make sure at all times that you stay calm. And I've always repeated this. Your mindset is the thing that'll keep you through everything, and just have an extremely strong willpower. And remember that everything in our lives is seasonal and it happens temporary, and eventually things will change and get better. So weather the storm and just stay like motivated through everything. And motivation will not be there every day. So rather stay disciplined.
Be resilient, right?
Absolutely, CR. Be resilient no matter what.
Exactly. And just to try and add on top of that, right? You're trying to find that nice, it's just right. Or to quote that a Goldilocks type of zone where it's just right? It's not too hot, it's not too cold, kind of somewhere in the middle, right? The threat level is minimal. It exists wherever it is, right? Maybe it's from the ocean or whatever, right? But you realize you have a contingency plan still for that,
People have got to learn to make compromises. There's never going to be a perfect location. So it's all about, the balance of threats. Are you more willing to stay in an area more likely to be colder, or are you more likely to stay in an area that's got a potential for escalation in crime and so on? And then, it comes back down to the ability to protect yourself. Are you allowed to have a gun for that reason, or any other form of weapon?
Learn how to make traps. Learn how to make traps not only for foraging, for eating, but learn how to make defensive traps. And obviously on this topic, I need to be extremely sensitive, because there are certain traps in terms of defense that are actually, I'll stop right there. But I will say that
I would love
don't fall into that trap. Don't fall into that trap.
And you put the spikes there, and then they come running, and then they fall in, and they impale themselves.
We will never do that. That is just very lightly speaking. We wouldn't actually ever do anything.
You would never do that.
I'm just saying for the record.
Guardian might not, but me.
We don't advocate we don't advocate violence on this channel.
We're not endorsing anything.
Oh, well, there is a get out clause. Yeah, SHTF, the gloves are off. You do anything to make yourself protect yourself. Is the best of times the law doesn't come and protect you, let alone anything else. So
Well, you just got to be but at the same time, you don't want to end up doing something and then your own people that are part of your community group end up stumbling into it or something like that as well. You know what I mean? So you've also got to be extremely cautious of that. Or not only that, sometimes people that are on the way and might be crossing the path where you've laid certain traps are actually people that could have potentially been help to you, and then you go and jeopardize like the people that could have potentially been, adding to your community rather than. Yeah. So you've got to be very careful on where you'd be laying such traps, and I think that there would be time and place to have defensive measures such as that.
There's a lot of
I
places
have to agree
now.
with the Guardian about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of places now that we've almost reached a point in which people know where the nice areas are, people know where the safe areas are, and it's for those sorts of reasons the price reflects the particular location. Hence, for instance, it's so hard to get into New Zealand, for instance. And all these other little pockets of land within a country that are, the prime spots for safety, not in terms of necessarily crime, but natural safety as well, natural disasters. Yeah, so Buckles Law says the US Army Field Manual for Trap Creation. Yeah, I would tend to go towards the old school stuff like the Vietnamese man traps and stuff like that, and spike traps. They're pretty effective. Punji sticks, yep. All that sort of stuff.
Punch into that.
Carpet grippers for the tops of walls and stuff like that. They're all good sort of deterrents. broken glass in concrete, etc., etc. Yeah. So I've just been Googling a particular artificial intelligence chatbot. I said to it, if you were human, given X, Y, Z threats, what locations in the world would you pick as safe zones? And I just fed into their natural disasters, crime, social disruption, terrorism, a whole load of factors and so on. And it spat out a load of locations. So I'll just read some of these off. It actually gave an example of a group of people living out of their box, so to speak. And that was the Mennonites, who originated from Switzerland. Switzerland in the 16th century. And it gave an example of the Mennonites living in Borneo, which I found a bit bizarre. Anyway, the other locations it gave were a particular location in Chile, which is the valley areas between Santiago and Concepcion. And it's quoted that it's got fertile land. It's in the southern hemisphere, which is a particular good tick in the box for an extended duration of life from a nuclear war. However, the cons were the big earthquake threat. The next one was Mendoza in Argentina, which is a far removed society, extensively researched by Joseph J. Coney. And he bought 2.3 million acres of land because he extensively researched it through his mining and oil company. Belo Horizonte in Brazil. There was no description for that. Another one which surprised me was Madagascar. There are said to be reserves of everything to build a modern economy except for oil, and has an abundance of food resources. Yeah, I'd agree with that one. And the final bunch were Melbourne or Tasmania in Australia, which contains infrastructure and it's a good southern location. And the final one it listed there was New Zealand, funnily enough, because of its rich, fertile and south. Because it's rich, fertile, and it is south. However, it is still in the ring of fire and subject to earthquakes and volcanoes. So, yeah. I suppose out of that lot, I would look at Madagascar and New Zealand, actually. A big bonus with New Zealand, I suppose they drive on the same side of the road as me. And the big tick in the box.
Well, that's a plus. That's a plus. That's a plus.
And they speak English.
You don't have to do a change to that.
There was I was reading about New Zealand a while back, where in a particular portion of New Zealand, the locals were not taking it too kindly. The fact that millionaires and billionaires were starting to buy up loads and loads of properties in that particular area, and it started to disrupt these people buying all this sort of real estate. It was starting to disrupt the motorcycle clubs' way of life and their style of income. And these motorcycle clubs, I think the mongrel mob, they were threatening that they will take control and take back land if anything happens. So that's one thing to be aware of, is the indigenous population rebounding and using SHTF as an excuse to take back historically claimed land. So, and that you could relate that as well to America and the some tribal disputes there and the First Nations people. There's many countries that you can use as an example. Yeah, many resources.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the other rankings I was looking at there is the livability rankings, which lists the global livability index of a certain country and ranks it amongst the rest. Cost of living comparisons to factor in your budget. And the global peace index as well, which you mentioned already.
You guys are typing a lot. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I can hear a lot
Yeah.
of clicking.
Lots of typing.
Yeah, it's the old adage scenario of the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Be careful, what you wish for, where you move to, because it may not be actually as good as what you left, and you'll be thrust into a whole new series of challenges, if you like.
Also, I think to this one, Venerable, it's a pretty good question, but I will say that unfortunately, 95% of the community, if not more, right? More than 95% of the community absolutely do not care even one bit about any SHTF situation. They're not preppy, they're prepper minded. They have absolute normalcy bias, believing that everything will be sustainable, that they can suck off the teeth of society for as long as their lives can continue. And that is unfortunately the harsh reality of society, that we face that on a daily basis. Where it comes to the normal person out there, absolutely more than 95, I firmly believe this, percent of people, even if they think that it is realistic, they don't even consider even for a moment that they could do anything within their day-to-day lives that would change the outcome of an SHTF type scenario as well. Not only that, but the locations that we have been mentioning are not particular places, but rather just the idea of the location specifically. Brilliantly pointed out, and I really appreciate your input as well, Venerable. I have much respect for that. So
also, if I can, it's a big difference between Googling something and actually discussing it, because you can Google something, read someone else's opinion on it, and then it doesn't really stick, when you really need that information. There's nothing that's immediate recall.
Experience.
An actual conversation about it, and you have something in your mind that I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I can't just read something on Google and then at some point miraculously remember it.
Prepper for the ages, I will definitely say 100% that I'm far more concerned about normal people than I am about other fellow preparedness-minded people and survivalists and people that are outdoorsmen and so hikers and campers. Everybody that hunts is even there's a lot of people that within, of course, there are the werewolf preppers out there, and I'm well aware of that. I'm not blind to that whatsoever. I'm fully aware that there are those out there. But at the same time, 100% so, I will take my chances with somebody who has had their mind in an SHTF potential situation for much, much longer, that they're not all of a sudden freaking out like the more than 95% of people that I'm talking about that are out there right now.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it,
the TB thing.
People that have been through hardships as well have also gained a thicker skin. And when somebody is scared, they're more likely to be dangerous, as such as a wild animal as well. When somebody's concerned about the situation and they are freaking out and everything is concerning them, and what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? Instead of you know what? Shit sucks, and now we're going to deal with it. I would much rather take preppers and survivalists than people who have no idea what could come along.
It's my mum lives in a different country, and it's a popular tourist attraction, or tourist destination. But there's no way I would go and visit this country again after what me mum has told us over the past couple of years. So you got two aspects of this vision of a certain place. On the one side, it's all advertised and depicted as this and that, and in reality, when you live there, it's completely different. And you get to see the veneer underneath the facade of the actual what's depicted. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to point to something quickly, if I may. Actually, go ahead, Theo. I can hold my thought.
I was gonna say it's like the difference between getting a tour of an area from like a tour guide compared to a local person giving that
Yeah.
tour to you, because they'll tell you a little bit more than the tour guide might say. The tour guide's gonna make it look nice, make it appear like, oh, this is a great area to come on vacation, right? You know? While the
Right.
local will be like, yeah, you know, it's nice to be here, but this can happen. It snowed last week for some reason. You missed it though. Right.
So, like, I just want to go back to Venerable, to the comments as well. When you hear any sort of frustration or venting coming from me about this topic, when it comes to normalcy bias and when it comes to the frustration of people not looking at preparedness in a serious way, like, it's the most pragmatic and practical thing that a person could ever do, right? John F. Kennedy specifically stated that the best time to repair the roof is when the sun is still shining. And for myself, like, it doesn't come down to anything else other than like an extreme level of this analogy where I'm standing in the middle of a crowd and I can see the bus coming along and I can see all of these things, AI on the rise, how many different elections this year, solar flares, how vulnerable our lives are with the just-in-time delivery service and the fragility of the internet. Like, there are so many different things, right? Realistic things. But then when you're speaking about it, people absolutely do not believe for a moment. So when you're hearing frustration and angst coming out of me, it's because I have been screaming at the top of my lungs for somebody in this crowd to like realize that, you know, the bus is coming and everybody's just standing there. And like, for myself, there's nothing more infuriating. And I just got to explain to you that I really just love people so damn much, and I just can't stand it when I like can see a practical way for them to be able to protect themselves on a much larger scale, and none of them are willing to listen.
Keep talking,
Yeah,
Guardian. I like when you talk. Go on, keep going. I like when you talk.
There's a lot of ignorant people out there who
Fine.
just cannot see it until it smacks them in the face, basically.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? I think when you're looking at a certain location, even if you want to move to a location, you know, you can reevaluate the location, you know, you find yourself in. There's various layers to it. And if you're talking about a foreign country, you can look at their particular immigration site, look at the regional politics, and just go down and down into the weeds and gradually get lower and lower and lower until you actually speak into the potential next door neighbor, the potential store owner that you're going to move nearby to, and all this sort of thing. And like CR says there, you know, that they're the ones that are going to tell you the real situation on the ground. You can even go as far as going to the local police station and start, you know, saying to them, you know, what do you encounter on a daily basis moving to this location and stuff like that. But it's a long, laborious, hard task, and it's not cheap. So, yeah, I mean, there are the dream. There's been many dreams for various people, and one that's often depicted is the progression from sort of the urban prepper all the way through to the homesteader. The depiction of a self-sufficient little farmstead somewhere where you're completely self-sustained, little pool of animals, water source, solar panels, your water filter system, your wind turbine, everything's
You got
sorted.
hydro.
Yeah, your crops and everything. But
Even geothermal. Wow, you'd be like,
well, yeah. I mean, so you know, is that really the perfect location? Because you know, community plays a massive thing in it. All you got, you know, you can only sustain yourself for so long before you're going to have to start looking at things like defense and things like this. So, how many people do you need to defend a location? A hell of a lot. You know, if you're talking about doing things, you know, a simple thing like a stag rotation system, for instance. You know, you're talking about minimum of 4 people, ideally something like 8 people. Someone in charge, rotating it through the rest of you, and that's just for defense. And then you're talking about things like food processing, energy sustainment, working the land, all this sort of stuff. The tick in the box in this community is starting to grow to 50+ people, and
Mhm.
there's not many places
and not only
like that.
and not only that, if the more remote it is, sometimes you gotta bring those resources in. I mean, you're gonna have to bring those solar panels to that location one way or another. It's got to be brought in. Something like solar panels, for example, because you're not building that off the land there.
These
You have to
days,
import it in.
yeah. You look at any documentary about isolated communities, even the people in the jungles of South America, they'll all have a reliance on petrol for their chainsaws or their boat engines and stuff like this. It's self-sustainment, access to those materials. So they're within a certain reach of civilization to gain access to petroleum products and all this sort of stuff. The clothes in their back, access to buying, t-shirts, shorts, trousers, shoes, all this sort of stuff. They've got to. You can only be so remote. Is the real point, really, before you have to start relying on things. Yeah.
Yeah, because even here in Canada, probably other places that get winter, dog sleds have all been replaced with snow machine, pretty much. So that takes fuel and all that stuff. So you can only be so self-sufficient. All right.
Yeah. So if you're going to move to an even remoter place, then you've got to have some sort of means to go back to a store or someone who can provide you with those replacement parts, chainsaw chains, spare parts, spark plugs, filters, and so on. Yeah,
because if you're planning a long-term stay at whatever this location is, right, you got to make sure that can it actually sustain you for the next 20 years that you want to stay here, 30, 40, whatever years, right? And assume that you may lose some of the resources or something may happen, right? I always assume, you probably might lose half the resources or have to use them. So you have to be able to, how do I say? It's like gardening, right? No matter how fertile it is, right? Eventually the fertility will go down if you don't put the inputs back into it, right? Because you're drawing out from the system every time. So if there's no inputs, eventually, if you don't have that output, like fertile land or that snow machine, then you're left with not much left.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to make the choice of moving again.
There's, I remember, I haven't got it with me. It's in my other location. So, in case anyone hasn't heard of him, there's a guy called the Modern Survivalist.
Oh, Fernando. Yeah,
Fernando Aguirre.
I follow him too.
Right, he's wrote 3 books. I've got all of his books actually. Quite interesting. One of them is bugging out and relocating, and it's called what? It's mainly about bugging out, but there's a large section in that book about relocating and what to look for if you want to move to a different country. And it lists various countries and lists the entry requirements and all this sort of stuff. And it lists sort of generic things to look for a new location and stuff like that. It's common sense stuff, but it makes a good checklist really for anyone who's considering moving with preparedness in mind for a new location. So yeah, check it out. He's got a YouTube channel as well. The Modern Survivalist, Fernando Aguirre.
What's up, Mark? I see he's in the chat with us. Chat.
Right.
Oh, go on. I like to hear you guys. Actually, we should be hearing from Shadow here. He's been quiet for
Chef
class.
Nick, good to see you, brother.
It's over there.
See, here we go from Shadow.
Chief Tech, hello.
Yes.
And yeah, Prepper for the Ages brings up an amazingly good thing. There's a lot of farm yard sales and even garage sales, things like that, that you can look for hand drills and things like that as well. Like obviously tools that you don't really need like electricity to run, and just tools in general, and a lot of prep items, camping stuff. Sometimes people don't really understand the value of holding onto some of those camping items for if things got rough. So they'll just like sell it. And if you look on even online, at secondhand online, every country's got their own like version of it. But over here it's Gumtree. But like, well, there's a couple. But obviously everywhere in the world, if you look at secondhand stuff for camping, it's also a great place to find really good deals.
Yeah, here we've got, we don't really have yard sales as much, but we have a thing called a car boot sale. People turn up in their vehicles, lay stuff out on the ground or on the table and sell it in a confined location. Obviously, eBay, Gumtree. We've got there's a good website actually called FreeCycle as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with the FreeCycle.
Right, yeah, that's a good website. You know, just pick things up
Yeah,
free.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
sorts of stuff there. Anything from a sofa to a chainsaw, really.
Yep.
But you know, because some of these stuff people want to get rid of, it's not really worth putting on eBay because people want. Yeah, it just doesn't sell basically, and specifically, you know, even if it's a thing like a chainsaw, it's quite a heavy object. You can't really post it. It just costs too much to post these days, so it's down to local collection only. And collection only reduces your customer base right down even further to the localized area, and it just your customer base goes down. Hey, Thor. So
this should be a
Thor.
subject. This should be a subject for one of the Saturdays that we do, right here.
What's that?
About resources or acquiring resources. Yeah, that'd be a good topic because we can chime into that. Real nice. Oh, I know you guys will have lots to say.
Hey, Bob. Bob's out in the garden. He's saying hello to us all.
Oh, yeah. Bob's been doing his thing. What's up, Bob?
Hey, Bob. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah. Bob just put out a video a couple hours back.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Thor. Good to see you,
Right.
James.
I'll watch that tomorrow, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's various. You got to prioritize what. If you're moving, especially if you're moving to a new area, you got to prioritize, and you've got the choice of moving to a new area. You got to prioritize what threats are top of your list, what threats are down the bottom of your list. For instance, would you prioritize crime above the earthquake threat? If you're in the, if you're living on the San Andreas Fault, for instance, or if you
or both.
Or both, yeah. Or if you're living in the Ring of Fire, would you prioritize moving to that location over crime? You know, so let's say you want to move out of a crime-ridden area because you've had enough of it, and you don't want to be the next victim, and you want to move to a place nice and warm and sunny and stuff, but that place is prone to earthquakes. So how do you balance it out? So people, you got to look at your priorities there and determine what's more important in life. What's the likelihood of the volcano erupting that you're moving nearby? What's the likelihood of the earthquake happening or the tsunami happening? If it's a 1 in 75 year or 1 in 100 year event and it happened 100 years ago, then I would take that risk rather than stay in a drug-ridden area full of idiots who are going to target sort of thing. A lot of people
risk versus reward.
Yeah, and I've seen this argument a lot. I've heard it a lot in the fact that if you leave an area, you're just running away from the problem. Well, fine. You can only put up with something for so long, and if you've got the choice, then do it. Move, because you'll just be left in a grim situation for the rest of your life. Well done. Here's a medal. Here's a cigar. You've stayed there amongst all this strife.
Well, fantastic. Sometimes you're forced to leave. Sometimes you're forced to leave because of a job too, right? You might be getting a better job somewhere else, and you're forced to leave.
Yeah,
because, it's in another town or whatever.
Point is,
right?
if you've got the choice, then and you got the, if it's feasible, you've got the choice. You can afford to move to better your situation, then fine, do it. Like I say, there's obviously factors involved like family, friends, and stuff like that. But yeah. social entropy. Things can only get worse. They rarely get better. That's there's no you can't really polish a turd really. You can only roll it in glitter. So choose wisely, and you won't ultimately definitively know until you actually move to the new location. Really.
Well, yeah, because you have to stay there for a period of time and kind of see the whole season, see the whole wildlife, see the whole situation as a whole.
Unless, you might have friends in this new location who have moved before you, and they've said, they've moved. Yeah, I mean, we got friends. They've moved up to a portion of a place in Scotland, and they keep thinking those messages saying, "Oh, it's great here. The weather isn't as bad as everyone says. There's no midges up here. Everyone's kind, friendly. There's no crime or anything like this." Fine, they've done the recce for me, so that's on my potential sort of list to move there when I got the opportunity. So you can get other people to do the work.
Although you gotta remember it's their point of view too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, but they do a lot of work for you as well. And consider.
No, I'm not saying they don't, but it's their own point of view.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Also consider if you pick a certain location. At some point, if you're a couple, one of you is going to outlive the other one. What do you then do if one of you dies and you're left on your own, for instance? Particularly, and I've seen this as well, many scenarios recently, and one of the other half, they can't drive. There's no bus routes, no bus facilities. They're now just stuck there or reliant on taxis and stuff like this. It can be, these real world sort of issues can become a real big problem.
Big issue. Yeah.
And they end up with the surviving member of the family, for instance. They're just in isolation then. They're relying on people visiting them for a bit of company and stuff. So very, another factor to consider really.
Yeah, that's pretty intense to think about as well. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that have been in those scenarios, travel to another place, and then that's why independence is a good thing. With different people, that would definitely be something unfortunate,
Good point, prepper for the ages. If I could choose again, I would take a homestead with several acres of land, close enough to trade with neighbors. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan to me.
That's why I said, when you reach sort of your 50s plus, for me, I look towards being within half hour of hospital or medical aid, easy access to shopping facilities, dentists, things like this. You can only, you can cut your nose off to spite your face in some sort of aspects. You can move out into the isolated wilds of wherever, swallow your national insurance number, 2 fingers up to society, live on your island, and sat back on your deck. Sat back on your deck chair with a nice margarita or something, 2 fingers up to the rest of the world, and you're sitting there. Who do you talk to? Suddenly you get ill. Massive resource allocation has to come out to you with a helicopter because there's no other access to you. You're miles from anywhere. So you got to
pay for that.
SHTF might never happen. Talking about big natural disasters and stuff like that. Well, you could argue SHTF is happening now. So balance the the probabilities of events.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
yeah, I'm also over 50 now. So, I'm 52. I'm 52, and you are not like when you are in your 20 and 30s.
Yeah. So it comes back to, I look at this sort of choice as, lifestyle adaptation. You've got to adapt as you go along in life to meet your needs, because we won't be as fit, as robust, and as strong forever. As we gradually get older, there's not a lot of people out there who are medication free, for instance, above the age of 60. To be honest,
That's not me.
People, especially in their early, mid 60s, there's not a lot of people who are not on medication. So therefore, they do require regular visits to the doctor, visits to hospital, blood tests, things like this,
Mm-hmm.
And I see this with relatives all the time. They're always, every other week they're going for a blood test, they're going for a diabetes check, they're getting this checked out, they're going for a scan, and so on and so on. Well, yeah, so preference for the age, yeah. So, yeah, community, these sorts of people, doctors, dentists, and stuff like that, they become critical components of your life when you reach a certain point. But until then, you can't really, you don't really see the bridge coming, if you like, or the cliff edge coming. In terms of health, everyone likes to think they're the healthiest person on the block and all this sort of stuff, but it could be as simple as a kidney stone, which needs taken care of. It's a big one, or you've injured yourself in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
that will take you to the hospital. And if it's a real emergency and you're more than half an hour away, then the clock's ticking.
Mm-hmm.
When we're younger, up until your 40s and so on, when you're in your 20s, you're invincible. And thereafter, as you gradually learn the lessons of life, you gradually become, your vulnerabilities in life, and where you rank alongside the Darwin chain, so to speak. Yeah, and isolation, it can impact your mental health, I suppose. Depends how much mentally robust you are. I mean, I don't mind isolation at all, but you don't have to be living or preparing for an SHTF situation to make yourself comfortable in the perfect location. Speaking of Florida, there was a community in Florida, big community of retirees. They buy a property on this big sheltered location, and they've got little clubs for them and community, sense of community and stuff like that, and activities for them to do. No cars, it's all golf carts and stuff like that. Yeah, when you reach your 60s and 70s and you start getting a bit decrepit and arthritis kicks in with some people, then you've got to start thinking about moving. Otherwise, you're on a slow demise, really.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, and people will notice this sort of thing, what I'm talking about now, when they get a relative who is, in their 70s and 80s, they'll start seeing the signs and they'll start thinking to themselves, right, I don't want to be in that situation when I reach that age. I want to put myself in the situation and location to mitigate all those sorts of things, rather than wait until someone puts me there, or I have to really start thinking about selling up and moving to wherever. I mean, sometimes if relatives can be a hard thing to deal with, because if you live a long way from your relatives, then one of them gets ill, a lot of people are obliged to then go and look after their relatives or have multiple trips back and forwards to make sure they're okay or make sure they get to their own doctor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It'll
It
come to a
depends on
sort of,
how long distance you have from your place to your relatives. It depends on.
Yeah, so the perfect location incorporates that sort of thinking, and they've got to be in that sort of decision cycle. Unless you're not bothered, a lot of people say, the parents have made their choice. I didn't ask to be born. I'm going to go and live here no matter what. Crack on. There's a lot of people like that. Their choice. I would like nothing better to go and live in an isolated cabin somewhere, but yeah, I think it's a bit of a dream, really. Not for me, anyway. Nice, comfortable existence on the edge of facilities, out of the way from people and their issues. So,
yeah, my parents lives 860 kilometers from me south, so that is a pretty long trip to make to visit your parents. So that's not possible to do that every week.
Yeah. And then,
because that takes 13, 14 hours to get down there. So
right. Yeah. Well, classic example. So, if something was to happen to one of them or both of them, you're going to have to stop everything, go straight down there. See what's going on, look after him or whatever. It's a problem for a lot of people, I think. Ideally, take them with you. Little, we call them a little granny flat. Get them a little property on your plot of land or whatever. They can live with you, fine. But it's not a viable solution for a lot of people because it's a lot of money. That's the one, yeah. That's Dana, yeah. So yeah, that's the one I was talking about. It's called the Villages, the biggest retirement community in Florida. Yeah, it's quite an interesting series of documentaries. Actually, if anyone wants to look at it, it looks ideal from the outside, but to me, it screams a bit of a Stepford Wife scenario when you delve into the detail of it. So. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of those little retirement villages dotted around. They're becoming more and more popular because people, when they reach, 50, 60, whatever years old in Britain, especially, it's becoming popular because they want to downsize. They don't want all this stuff around them. They want to be near like-minded people amongst the gated, safer community. And they move to these little gated communities, whether they're retirement villages or they're like holiday home villages. So they look like static caravans, but it's for the over 50s or over 60s. You're allowed one pet and this sort of stuff. And you pay sort of a nominal rental fee, £200 or £300 a month, but for that you get the maintenance is thrown in, the gardener is paid for, so they look after the grounds, and they organize events to keep everyone interested and motivated and bonding together, sort of thing. You don't have to take part in any of these things, but yeah, that's something to look forward to, I suppose, when you're getting into your sort of sunshine years, sunset years. You don't want to end up with farewell ranch, but it appeals to some people.
Yeah, I know someone that went through that. They moved from a home to something a little bit smaller, right? Kind of gave up on the gardening for now.
Yeah, because gardening is it's quite a labor intensive task, and even people in their 50s, start to develop bad knees, arthritic hands,
arthritis, arthritis and stuff like that,
bad back, stuff like this, and
I can't bend over like I used to, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my knees are gone, my shoulders are gone, all this sort of stuff. But
my back killing me, my knees killing me.
Yeah, preparedness isn't just about preparing for natural disasters, social unrest, and this sort of stuff. You got to prepare yourself and make yourself comfortable for future years. Like I say, it's not for everyone, this sort of living. Some people want to be in their own isolated or just in their own little sort of castle, but other people want it. And some of these sort of encampments, if you want to call them that, are quite expensive as well.
Well, yeah, because you're paying for that convenience of having someone else do something for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, gardening, whatever it is, right? Maintenance guy, right? Money's going towards the maintenance guy, the janitor, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll just be away a second.
And this is where Shadow does more talking.
Thor says, I would love to have a few more houses on our property for family, others to keep watch and help with all the chores. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree that having a few more hands is very handy.
Do you think after an SHF society will evolve back to the feudal society where people don't own the land but they work on it? That is a good question. I never thought about it that way before. Well, maybe not. I'm not sure.
I think it would depend on what's actually going on at that time, or what it is.
Yeah.
Because let's just say a vast majority of this land is kind of less than stellar now.
Okay, back.
It might. Oh, welcome back. You might want to have everyone work on the land to improve back onto it again.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a totally different topic for a totally different Saturday.
What was that topic, CR, you just said?
Well, for the Aegis was asking about. Well, you can read the comments on screen right now. Is it? Yeah.
Do you think after SHF society will evolve back to a feudal society where people don't own the land but they work on it? Yeah, good question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe not.
I'd say probably yeah.
Yeah.
You got the initial. That's law is off the table. Do what you like, sort of thing. Free for all. I'll grab that because I've always wanted to live there.
Boats.
And then
good to see you, brother.
Land grab left, right, and centre, and it goes back to possession sort of thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Boats us Iowa, hello. Right, so Dana says there, I live in the country and I've seen a change here with people's attitudes and behaviours, and it is not positive. Yeah.
Wow.
It turns out to go bad, right?
I spoke to a guy today. He came, I sold an item on eBay and he came to pick it up. It was a collection job. And I said to him, we're discussing things. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm taking these to Italy. I said, all right. I said, why are you moving to Italy? He said, I've had enough of this country. I'm moving. And it was the same reason.
Sounds like everyone.
Yeah.
Same reason. It sounds like everyone else that says that.
the shift in
Oh, here, I'm
demographics.
sick of the heat here. I'm sick of the foot here. Right? Well,
Well,
fireplaces will just have different problems.
yeah, the same sort of things people talk about in general conversations, and there's a lot of people talking about it. Every conversation I have with sort of people I loosely know and this sort of stuff, they all talk about moving and seeking out a better sort of place. And it's one thing talking about it, but it's another thing actually doing it. Taking the actual leap of faith is a big thing.
Yeah, investing the money and the time towards something like that, right?
Yeah,
I think that's why not a lot of people would just suddenly move.
Yeah, well,
it takes a long time to make that decision.
Build yourself up to it. Well, it's funny because some people can just up sticks and go straight away. We're not, not thinking about it. Other people it takes them a long time to stew over it. Other people are forced to do it. And some people need to kick up the backside to do it.
And for some people, they move and move back.
Yeah,
some people do that too, right?
Well,
people move out, move back in.
I was talking about the couple in the newspaper the other day who moved from London to the countryside, and they basically moved back to London 2 years later because they wanted the convenience of London. So
that should have been addressed in their action plan for it when they were thinking about that, right?
It was I think what sparked them off reading to lines was COVID. The lockdown in London during COVID, lack of green space to walk around, all this sort of thing, all this escape to the country sort of movement. They saw the dream vision of walking the dog in the countryside, etc., etc., and they just suddenly realised that they actually were so accustomed to the convenience and instantaneous needs and wants and provision of society in London that was it. They were just in that sort of mindset and didn't adapt. But I don't think it would bother me. I mean, I've moved around quite a lot of my life. Being in the army, you'd move around every 4 or so years normally, unless you extend. And so it didn't bother me at all. I've moved over 14 times throughout my life, and I'm well versed to it. But I don't really, when you're in a sort of an army situation, you're going to move to an area where you're going to be welcomed. You're going to be moving to an area where they want you because you're amongst, you're living on the army patch, for instance. So you're amongst fellow soldiers and stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of planning involved once you do actually make the leap of faith. Booking all sorts of stuff, redressing mail, changing, cancelling amenities, water, electricity, gas.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
And broadbands, moving to a new location, reinstigating everything else again. Yeah, it's not a quick process, and it
takes time.
Yeah, it does take time. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of YouTubers out there right now that have moved and are developing the land that they are on now, and look how much time it takes them just to put out the videos for all that. That takes a lot of time, years, right? Because there's only so much you could do in a year. Some projects take priority over others. Maybe we need a house before the garden, and we need some water before we have this garden space, and we need to figure out what are we going to do with this, and what's this behind this. What are we going to do about that, and all that stuff. And you got to hire people, right? If you're bringing in stuff, like I said earlier, right, the solar panels or anything like that, someone's got to bring that in.
Yeah.
Unless you got the truck, unless you can fit it on your truck, you might have to hire someone to bring that in.
And then you've got to
pour concrete.
If you're going to
in the middle of the
if you're going to a remote location as well, and you're doing it for preparedness reasons, then you would have a lot more stuff in terms of spare to take with you as well. I mean, I would, if I was to set up an independent solar system, I would have spare panels, spare inverter for a start off, because single points of failure. Inverter goes, you lost a lot. Unless it's a 12-volt system throughout. Things like that, spare wind turbine mechanisms and stuff, spare wiring, all the means and gadgets and stuff, and tools, and materials to repair something when it's broken. So do you take 2 of something, 3 of something? Yeah, it's a bit.
You might not be able to carry everything with you.
Your plot of land that you've reserved to live on becomes twice the size because you need all these spares, because there's no supply chain. Everything has to be bought in by camel or mule or whatever.
Yeah, you have to sustain that for a long period of time.
Yeah, and like I say, if you're doing it for preparedness reasons, then what you've got's what you've got. That's it. Done.
Hey, Darren Dobson. Good to see you, brother.
Hello, Darren Dobson. How you doing?
Another Canadian.
Yeah, I keep talking about access to medical care. It only takes, you don't even have to be these days, through the expansion of ticks, you don't have to be in the complete wilderness to get a tick, which potentially will give you tick-borne encephalitis, Lyme disease,
Yeah.
So when you start getting ill, how do you get to the doctor? How do you get medical care? And like Bob says there, Bob says there, just to move to another city is stressful. Yeah, it's so many working parts involved and so many things you have to get right and timeline out that it can only take one thing to disrupt it all. Like, your boxes are delayed or your movements are delayed, and then it throws everything else out. And if you move to another country, then, it's even more of a drama.
Yeah, I was going to say preparedness veteran, not just ticks, it could be insect-borne disease, like malaria, I guess, something like that.
Yeah, and it's there's lots of emerging nasties out there these days, ranging from chikungunya to West Nile virus, etc.
Yeah, so the Lyme disease, malaria, anti-venom for snake bites, for example,
exactly,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to be close enough to that. It could happen, very rare, but these remote areas, there could be snakes, more mosquitoes, ticks, and stuff like that than you're used to.
Well, I think if you get something like, I don't know, I was going to use leishmaniasis, but let's say a tick bite, and the dangers are that you don't recognize fully, you don't diagnose fully what the symptoms are, and you don't recognize what you've actually got, and you palm it off as the flu or some other ailment because it has the same sort of,
must have been the food.
Yeah, and by the time you actually realize you do need medical aid, you're at a tilt point of touch and go. The window of opportunity to give you antibiotics for certain ailments, for instance, can tilt you over the edge if you haven't got them. And by the time you do actually get to the doctor, it's gone beyond the point of, better treat it earlier than later. And even if you have you could be walking in the woods, you've put your foot down a hole in the rocks, break your leg, open fracture business. You can't treat that yourself. It's ridiculous these days.
Oh, so, that actually happened. That reminds me of something.
Yeah.
That reminds me what happened to Second Star Survival and FSP, 100% prepping. Both of them had issues with they actually injured themselves. I think both of them broke their leg. If I remember right? So it can happen, right? Especially as you get older. It can be a simple slip, right? Oops.
Yeah.
And now, all right.
And now the society that you've escaped from, you've become a burden on those because the injury is so critical that you call a helicopter in.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
or you gotta get on that ATV and ride for like 15 minutes to the nearest house or something like that. Yeah. But of course, that would be part of your assessment of the area, right?
exactly.
The risk versus reward of the area.
You could even be in a place where nice sunny location on the beach somewhere, and you could step on a sea urchin. Simple scenario, or some sort of poisonous fish, and you then immediately require medical aid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that would come back to your not awareness, but your assessment of the area in the first place, right? You would ask the locals or people locally. It's like, is there bears around here or whatever the wildlife is, right? Snakes, whatever. It could be anything, really. Snakes, anything like that, right? So you're aware of that stuff, just in case.
Yeah, weigh up the odds.
Which also means you make contingency plans for that.
You should do
whatever it is. Yeah,
but,
if it's snakes, then where's the nearest place I can get antivenom for that kind of stuff?
Yeah. There's injury will come into play no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Hence
no matter how safe you are, how cautious you are, because unfortunately things just happen sometimes, accidentally.
Yep. Anything ranging from tipping a boiling kettle over to cutting yourself with an axe.
Or see what happened to farmers on prepping FSP is that I think he tripped over his dog, or it was with his dog, and and he broke his leg because of it, just because the way that it all happened all suddenly, right? But that suddenly just happened to him, and he was thrust into an emergency situation because he more remote. He had to, go, make a call and all this stuff. I mean, he's all good now, but it's quite serious for him at that time.
Right. So you imagine, we're in sort of quote unquote peacetime, and you're then hours away, or from medical aid. You're then in a SHF situation, collapse scenario. Then that's it. You're back into the Middle Ages style of treatment. But when you get to that sort of stage, I don't think you're not going to have any the medical systems would have gone anyway. So the likelihood of that happening is pretty remote. People have got to keep it real. I think you're going to move somewhere, make sure you're within reach of medical treatment. My personal time frame would be a choice of 30 minutes. 30 minutes from for an ambulance to get to you. Because ambulances these days are pretty
30 minutes even by helicopter. I mean, I know how fast they
go. 30 minutes away from any sort of medical aid then. Yeah. Ambulances these days have got that much equipment, training on them, skills and stuff that they can
keep you going, keep you alive for that half an hour.
Yeah, they'll stabilize you, and they can do minor surgery in some cases. So,
yeah, and if need be, a helicopter.
Yeah,
because sometimes in the most remote areas, that's all they can use, or because the need of speed to fly someone is faster than by overland.
Yeah, I know some of the Scottish islands, they have there's small runways there, and their sort of evacuation plan for anyone who's sick is get them on the aircraft, fly them to, say, Aberdeen, which is a couple of hours away. So,
Yeah.
not ideal, but the option's there. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to shoot off in a sec, but one of the, you're talking about a perfect location. There is options nowadays where you don't have to have a location. What you do is, I've heard about this, there's a couple of these springing up now for the people who can afford it, obviously, is...
That's not us.
No, yeah, exactly. It's not in our...
That's definitely not us.
Not us.
Anyway, what it is you get these cruise ships now.
Keep me in mind.
Residential cruise ships. So they buy a apartment on a cruise ship and they live on the cruise ship, basically. That's it. That's where they live.
Hopefully you don't get seasick.
Well, yeah, hopefully. But these are, you're talking, these big proper cruise ships, and they travel around the coastline of a country, or they just gradually tour around somewhere. I haven't researched where they go, but yeah, I've heard of those. I've seen 2 or 3 of those for sale. Apartments within.
Speaking of floating life, then.
Yeah, I mean, I used to live. I live on a boat, and it's a good life. It's
it is
semi off the radar. You can move when you want. If you don't like your neighbours, you move. If the threat escalates, you move. I mean, when the Ebola scare of, I think it's 2011, kicked off, it was getting to the point where they were going to start contingencies over here in Britain, and they were talking about what happens when the first case arrives in Britain. And at that time, I was thinking to myself, right, if that kicks off in the big cities and stuff like this, it's going to escalate pretty quickly. And the last thing you want is Ebola. It's visually, scary, bleeding out of every orifice and so on and so on. High mortality rate, etc., etc. You don't want to be near that scenario. So we actually moved to a rural area, a really remote area in Wales on the boat. So, that's one of the advantages of that sort of lifestyle. You can just pick and choose your location within reason. Obviously, it's got to be water-based.
Yeah. So I had in mind, and I still have that in mind, to if and when I can afford it, I would buy a houseboat.
Right. They're becoming very popular, even in the coastal areas as well, here in Britain. They're not exactly cheap. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a cheaper form of lifestyle. It's a different form of lifestyle because you've got different sort of overheads, maintenance, etc., etc. But the benefits are your, rightly or wrongly, you're mobile. You can move when you want.
If you don't like the neighbors, you just move your home.
Exactly. Yeah, I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And like I say, when the threat goes up for certain things, you can move.
Hey, Hendo, good to see you, brother.
If you want to go and try a new area, you just move. We moved to an area.
But it also comes with some cons too, I guess, right? You got to maintain the boat. Yeah. It's your shelter. You don't have a lot of land. So gardening aspects are quite... Well, I guess hydroponics.
I didn't find that a problem, really, because your sort of outside area space is where you're more, and that's in a rural area anyway. You can walk around and do what you like, really, to a certain extent. The only real big issue, pros and cons and stuff and that, is storage space, really. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Apart from that, if you're living in a steel boat, then you're fairly robust. Winters aren't a problem. There's plenty of modern day heating systems on them. You've got TVs, fridges, washing machines, all the modern amenities. It's just like being in a house, but you're on a boat.
That floats.
Yeah.
Hey, Harry Clint. Good to see you, brother.
And obviously, you're more vulnerable to the elements, really. So if you're on a tidal river, then you've got the tide to contend with, currents. You've got winds, tidal ranges as well. Get really low tide or really high tide, storm surges. So you got that's the vulnerable side of it as well. It can be a bit precarious, no matter how safe you are. And if you're moving out on the open sea, then that's people underestimate the sea big time on boats. But it's another option. And you can quite easily island hop, and a lot of people live like that, and a lot of people do that, especially in the Mediterranean. They cross the Atlantic, island hop around the Med for 6 or 7 months, and then go wherever. And it's a full-time sort of existence for them, really. So people, different sort of lifestyles for different people. I've heard, there's a lot of people who live in camper vans, do the mobile van life stuff. Another option, same again, pick and choose your location, move you when you want, etc., etc. Work is an issue because you've got to go to your place of work, so you can't move around that greatly. But these sorts of things, when you're in a vehicle or a boat, it tends to become slightly more precarious than a house, because a van, for instance, you're living in a van, some idiot can quite easily run into you and write your vehicle off. And that's it, you've lost your house. It's down to insurance payments, temporary accommodation, all this sort of stuff. So there's a lot of vulnerabilities there, but it's a flexible way of life, definitely. I've heard stories.
Because all your eggs are back in one basket again, right? Because now your transportation or vehicle is your home too, right? So if anything affects both or one of them, then it's like right off again. Which is different if you own a house and a van.
Yeah. There is the other option, which I haven't heard anyone doing, but it's an idea for someone out there. And that is, in Britain, you're not allowed to live on your own plot of land unless it's in a house. Let's say you're not allowed to live in a van on your own plot of land for more than 30 days. It's like a 30-day rule. There's some loopholes that say you can and you can't, but generally you can't. So the idea was you buy 12 plots of land, and you just move from plot to plot around the various plots. So you move to your southern plots in the winter, the northern plots in the summer, and all this sort of stuff. Or you could have 2 or 3 plots, and you just rotate around them all. It's an idea for someone out there, no doubt. Someone's thought of that already.
That sounds interesting, this plot of the story.
Yeah, your van's self-contained. All you really need is water, a water source, and a refuse point, and a waste disposal point for your toilet, really. And you're pretty much sorted. So anyway, I've got to shoot off. So I'll have to catch your.
Take care of President's return.
Yeah,
no, always a pleasure to hear from you, man. Always a pleasure.
Well, throw some ideas out there, keep the conversation going, etc., etc. Add a bit of humor into the mix. So
and by the way, next week's live stream will be how to transition from normality into an SHTF world.
Right, good one, good one.
Yep.
Righto, we'll catch you in a bit. Thanks, Shadow, and I'll see you later. CR.
You're welcome. Yeah, take care.
Cheers to everyone in the chat. And I'll catch you later.
Yeah, we'll catch you later.
Okay. Now, everyone, this is where Shadow does all the talking, and I take a break from talking. Right now. Seriously.
Seriously. Well, I like houseboats, but the problem is they are really expensive to buy. You need some place to have it. And the problem is when you don't have the financial status for it, it will be a lot difficult. But that is my dream, to have a houseboat. So you can move to a different location.
Yeah. Then suddenly I see this guy like on the shore of like off the Atlantic side. I'll be like, "When'd you get here?" Shadow. I rode my boat over here. CR. Oh, okay.
Prepper for the ages says, I hear houseboats are really nice. Yeah, they are. They are really nice. But as PV said, they are really expensive.
Mm-hmm. And being out on open seas, I guess you're gonna be your own repairman, your own first responder, all this first stuff.
Yeah, you need to be your
You're
own
on your own.
mechanic. Yeah, you are on your own, and you need to have a VHF radio. You need to have emergency flares. You need to have,
You know, there's all these stories, real world stories about these people that, had an abandoned ship or got shipwrecked, right? There's all sorts of stories out there. I forget the names of some of these people. Someone was out there for like 76 days, right? Oh, there's this famous one that you can actually see on I Shouldn't Be Alive, the show itself, right? Where they show that. It was just like, because he was well stocked. He had preparedness items. He knew how to fix things or whatever, right? But randomly, I think he said a whale or something like that hit his boat and caused this big gushing in the hull. And next thing you knew, he had to abandon ship into a dinghy. Right? Like he was prepared. He was a little bit more prepared, obviously, because obviously you're in a boat in the middle of the ocean, right? So I think one of his things that he said it when he was explaining the reenactment and all that, the story itself, that he took the risk of going back into the boat to get an emergency kit because he knew that without that, because it had items like extra water, I think he said a harpoon, fishing equipment, right? Without that, there was almost absolutely no way he would have been able to survive that because without the, let's say, silver stills, without the food aspect of it, you would be like, you're done. A couple days, you'd be done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where, again, the risk versus reward, all right? Because he knew it's like, it's going to be a risk to go back into the boat, right? But the reward is, I might be able to survive this emergency situation at that time. So
yeah.
Something
and
to be
the
aware
advantage
of, right?
is
So
you can relocate to a better location. You can
get up and go.
Yeah,
It's
get up
it's
and
just
go.
like it's just like people that have an RV or something like that, right? Some of these people, they travel around the country for a bit, for a year or something like that, right? A boat would just be a lot bigger in terms of where you can go and stuff like that.
Yeah, Prepper for the Ages says, I'm also interested in long boats that go up and down canals. It's different way of life. Yeah, those long boats, they have those in UK, and you live on those boats. And those are really comfortable. They are narrow boats, but they are narrow but long. But you can live very comfortable in a boat like that. And yes, in UK there are a lot of people who lives on those boats, long boats. Hey, Bob.
Hey, yeah, I saw those boats in England. They're called a punting boat, river boats. Hello, CR.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Your video on your last one was very exciting. I enjoyed that.
Oh, it was a good day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sanitizing the soil all winter, making fertilizer all winter.
Like I said earlier, if you're moving to a place, you have to be able to sustain the resources and be able to recover what you can too, right? Because let's say you're not just going to go there on vacation, right? For a couple of days, a week, even a year. You're staying there for a long period of time, so hence you want to be able to replenish the inputs that the outputs that you're pulling from the land or whatever it is, right? So, if there might be a lot of trees, but maybe in time you might have to plant some for later on down the road, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, where you still need them. The water too.
Yeah, as you guys know, that less than 2 years ago we moved into this place, and that was a lot of work just to get from one place to the next. A lot of work. So if you're planning on buying property to set up a shelter of some kind, do it now. Start on it now while you are physically able to do it. So I'm over 60 now, and there's a hell of a lot of stuff I can't do anymore. Period. Just putting it right out there,
Yeah. If you have a plot of land that you're interested in time, try to work that land. Try to get it going right away. For example, like I know the Hedgehog family with Chris and Laura, they're doing it right now. They moved to a new location. They're building up that location right now, right?
Right.
And look at how many videos they put out of doing it, right? It's taking them a long time.
Even with the tractor and all that,
modern day convenience, modern day conveniences, people, equipment, right? It still takes time, right? Because like I said earlier, even if it's just a U-Haul of stuff, you still have to bring that to the location. It's not just a mysteriously transport over there. Right?
And if you notice with Laura and her husband, they had to contract out a lot of stuff, like running power from the roadway to their homestead and on.
And the well dug.
Drilling a well, all that, It's a lot.
And the time that takes to even develop the garden area, right? I know she had some issues with the soil she bought, and she's been amending the soil ever since she's gone there, right? And just adding and adding to it, right? Because these things that you do in the short term right away, they may make a big difference later on because you've already taken these little steps sooner than later, which means that these little steps start to add up as the years go on. And, it's just like virtually adding to the soil every single year. You don't notice it the first couple of years, but in time, 5, 6, 7 years, you start being like, damn, this stuff's growing like easy. I don't even have to do anything anymore. It just grows.
River boats and canal boats. Thank you for that, Hendo. My relatives in England called them punting boat. A punting boat. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to go back to discussing the renting an apartment on a cruise ship. That would be ideal, but it's money. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, you buy an apartment on a cruise ship, basically.
Oh, that would be awesome. Because they do all the cooking, all the cleanup, all the the laundry service, all that stuff is done for you, and you just basically pay. That would be if I had the money, but I don't.
Yeah, if you have the money, I don't.
Yeah, if we had the money. So if anyone wins the lottery, remember us.
I do have one request though, that all of the female staff, be of Filipino, Malaysian, Indonesian descent and look great in a bikini. That's the only request that I have.
Yeah, and your missus would just stand behind you with a flip flop and.
Is that so hard to ask?
Is that too much to ask for some tight little brown sexy legs and butt? I mean, come on.
Well, we know Bob's priorities in life.
Anyways. Malay Indonesian little tight.
Prepper for the age, he says, apartment on a cruise ship would be cheaper than assisted living.
Probably.
Hey, it might be better than HOAs.
Yeah.
And all that other stuff.
Yeah, HOA, that's one of the reasons why we got into this house. There is none. There's no homeowners association where we live.
Yeah, because
Because,
I've never gone for anything like that personally, but the stories I hear
Mhm.
is just like, what? I can't even plant a
Yeah.
sunflower there? What?
Yeah, my wife works with ladies that are their homes are in an HOA, and it's a monthly cost, and you add it up, and that's like more than a house payment every year, probably twice as much as a house payment
Yeah,
every year.
at least a house you can still kind of do stuff on.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, we don't have an HOA here, but there's new developments not too far from here, and they're all HOA, and you're going to be making an extra house payment every year just to be in that. And I don't want anyone to tell me that I cannot paint my house a certain color. If I wanted a color, that's just, I don't know.
If you want to paint your house in camo, you do it.
I can. Yeah.
I want to paint it.
So-
But that would take some time
green.
to do that.
Oh boy, yeah.
I guess on the bright
Yeah, I
side, I
thought
wouldn't be able to find Bob's house. Where's Bob's house? It's over
you
there.
wouldn't be able to see
Can't
me.
you see it?
Yeah. It's somewhere
Where?
over there. Where?
Where?
Where? Where?
Over there. You can't see it.
You mean that's not a thicket of that's not a trees and brush? That's a house? Really? No, that's not actually blackberry bramble. That's Bob's house. Yeah, I thought I'd take a water break and
now
come
I
in and
went
say
to look
hello
up
to my
after
friends.
the stream. It's
Yeah.
I went to look up camel houses.
Camel houses. Yeah, there's probably a
I bet
bunch
you
of
there
them
is
out
someone
there.
out there.
I'll bet there is.
I bet you there is people.
Mhm.
I bet you people.
I'll bet there is. I mean, let me search Google right now while I'm taking a water and smoke break. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 days. 2 days of sun here, CR. Yeah.
I had to wire some stuff. Yeah.
Well, I can't resist. We've had 2 days of sun out here. Oh yeah, there's camel houses out there. Holy shit. Oh yeah. Wow. Just search images, for camel houses. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there. Oh boy. Yeah, the neighbors would freaking love me, man.
Or you build a new house on a new location. It looks like a Browning 50 cal machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
You build the house so it looks like that, the same color, everything.
Yeah, or like a German flak tower or something with gun emplacements on the top, and holy shit, man.
That would be an odd design on a house,
wouldn't it be? All concrete with shooting portholes out of it. Yeah, have the law enforcement.
Belt fed.
Law enforcement to show up. It's just paint, man. Relax. It ain't real.
Nobody wouldn't try to trespass if you have a house that looks like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should take a look at that on Google. Just Google images of camo house. Yeah,
actually,
boy.
I need to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
And they are probably good too. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here's one. Casa Camo in Marbella, inner city camouflage, gray, black, and white. Oh, that's pretty wild looking. Holy cow! Here's another one. It's got like a woodland pattern to it. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that camo houses existed actually, unless until you Google it yourself.
Uh-huh.
But that is pretty cool, especially
Yeah.
if it's done well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here's one with, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. Camo house, wow, architect, a bunch of holes on the X side, the outside of the building, and they've got plants growing out from the holes. That's something else there, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And see our lost connection. Okay, no problem.
Oh, okay.
Well, it happens.
Has anyone fired him recently, or has he been just running amok?
Nobody has fired him yet.
Oh man, somebody's got to get after it. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Oh boy. Let's take a break for a few minutes. I'm just out there leveling some soil out in the backyard and pulling weeds and all that domestic stuff.
Yeah, things that need to be done.
Yeah. I enjoy it though, because it's been sitting inside for the last 9 months. Yeah.
Shannon says the solar storms are wild today.
This wannabe dictator Castro.
Yeah, now he's back again.
There we go.
Well, yeah, I had to come back so Bob could actually fire me before I leave.
You get an official, an officially CR. You're fired.
You're fired.
You're fired.
Oh, I'm always gonna remember that.
Yeah, it's easier to remember that.
So I missed like probably a minute of what you said there, Bob. You're working on what?
Oh, just some soil out in the backyard.
Oh yeah.
I've dug I dug that old stump out that was rotten. I'm planing that whole surface down by hand, and then probably tomorrow or sometime I'll seed it with grass and some fertilizer and all that. But today I'm also going over in the yard, and I cut the dandelions off, throw that, it turns into mulch, and then take the open space in the grass, plane that down, put down some of that homemade fertilizer, and then some seed and soil and water it, trying to make the place look nice so that when we get ready to sell and do a move overseas, it'll be easier to sell.
Yeah.
Maintenance. Yeah.
Rebel Kenner says, on land you can walk to safety, but when on sea you can't. But I love watching a few boat life channels. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a channel like that a long time ago, Tammy. I don't remember the channel name, but it was a younger couple, and they were in a sailboat and a diesel engine, both, and they'd stay out to sea most of the time. And when they got low on provisions, they were out in the Pacific, and they'd pull into one of the ports and go there and buy their food and water or whatever else they needed.
Yeah, you need more water if you are on a boat.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you
Definitely.
use more water every day than what you realize.
Yeah.
I for me, it would be with piracy, and that does happen. it would be you'd have to be on guard. I would rather have 2 or 3 boats with people that you could trust, watching your back,
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big fantasy, just like having the whole deck crew of a cruise ship of gorgeous Filipinas wearing tea-back thongs and stuff, It's just a dream.
Yeah,
I'm trying to hold back my
I'll
tongue
figure
here.
it.
I'm trying to hold back my tongue here.
Yeah.
I
I'll
wonder
just type
what
it
your
in the-
missus
in the
would say
private
about
chat.
that one.
I'll just type it in the private chat, everyone.
I'll just blindfold her.
Yeah, and she takes that. blindfold
Bob,
off.
if you do that, she might blindfold you permanently.
Yeah.
Uh,
Something could get cut off and thrown off the side of the boat, Well.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
something,
you
but I'm
will
not
not
gonna
re-
say that now. I'm not gonna say that. Never mind.
Yeah, and you will not notice it.
Mm.
Tranquilizer.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got resources to all the meds and stuff. She'd put me under and, have no choice.
But on the other hand, if you are on a boat and have to relocate, well, most people have their cars and take their cars to relocate. So
Yeah.
if you have some problems, they can't follow you on water unless they get a boat.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some opportunities.
I know one lady here in Washington State. She's into preparing and all that. She has a couple of lives, but her plan is, because I asked her, what are you going to do during the next course of riots? And she says, I'm going to go get on our boat and go offshore and drop anchor and wait till it's over. It's a smart thing. Wish I had that option.
Yeah, that is a really good option.
Yeah, because anything can light on fire. They can rape Rob, and you're out there on a boat. And unless they have a boat, Yeah. Circumcision. Yeah. Well, this would be a little deeper than circumcision if my wife did it.
Hey, I wasn't gonna say that CR word. I wasn't going to. I like my CR words, but maybe not that one.
So, you don't like that? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, for obvious reasons. For
Uh-huh.
obvious reasons.
Yeah.
It scares me.
Every guy in the world, when he hears that word, his knees slam shut, man. Ooh.
Oh, don't talk about this anymore.
Or 2 big flat rocks.
Yeah. Oh. I like that. Yep. Pop. Mm-hmm.
That will hurt.
Yep.
Hey, Waldy, the Bills.
Hey,
Good to see you.
how are you doing, man? Nice to see you. I haven't seen her around for a while.
Well, I was on her short live stream today.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I was on a live for a little while. Maria.
I was on a live earlier too.
Yeah. First thing when I was having my morning coffee with Maria, and it's kind of international panel. There's a lot of different people from around the world, and
just like us.
Yeah, just like us right now. Mm-hmm. Then I went, okay, I had my second cup of coffee. I'm going outside. It's sunny day. I'm outside. I got to go,
Yeah. You got to take advantage of the days that are good for you. The time that you have. Yeah, if it rains, then it's like, okay, I'll stay inside and do something else.
Yeah, both you guys live in the north, similar weather patterns, So when you get a sunny day, get out there and enjoy it.
Well, when it's nice out or whatever, anyways, warm or whatever, right? Yeah, you got to do stuff, right? I'll hibernate when it's like cloudy and raining and it's
Me too. Yeah, that's what it's like.
But if it's nice out, I don't want to stay inside. It's too nice to waste the day away. Especially if I want to garden stuff. Now is a good time.
That's what I'm doing today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking a water and smoke break, and that way I can also text the missus. Just had a water break, because she'll call me or she'll text me. Drink your water, Mister.
Hydrate out.
Yeah, it's easy to forget to drink the water.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can forget that when I'm at work, because I'm mostly all the time in the car, so it's easy you don't have time to drink. So when you stop, you might drink some, but it's easy to forget, especially if you're in a hurry.
Yeah, and sometimes you're like, oh, I'm still good. I'll have it in like an hour. I'll have some in an hour, then another hour, and then yeah.
Do you guys remember from my channel where I took a lot of rice and leftover food and made it into a powdered fertilizer for the plants?
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
I have a whole bunch of it, and I'm using it out in the grass right now to plant some new grass seed and stuff. So I was going to use it for the potted plants, but I'm going to use it out there in the grass instead. So.
Well, at least it's still getting used for a good purpose.
It is.
Yes. Because, like I said earlier, with the hedgehog family, right? They're doing it right now, kind of, right? They've gone to what they think is a perfect location, a new place, redeveloping the area. They had to build a home on it, a bunch of other things that they're building on. There's videos on that Laura's been doing, especially the gardening stuff, right?
Yep.
Because I know she's been doing this kind of, how do I say, chop and drop. They're adding back, amending the soil that they do have the beds and all that stuff. Because in this first couple of years, this is the most important time to try to get as much done as possible. Set up everything, right? Stage everything, so everything else just builds upon the previous years of stuff, right? Because in time, as they keep going, the soil that they have will just keep getting better because they're adding to it, right? They're adding. And hopefully in time, maybe next thing you know, it's like, look, it's paradise. It's Eden, everyone.
Yeah, the logistics of just getting to where they're at right now is huge,
Yeah.
Well, my logistics to move overseas is I've been sending boxes and suitcases of stuff that we're going to need in our overseas house for years now,
Yeah, exactly. Like I said earlier, you're staging it in advance, so it's like stuff like that.
That makes everything easier, so you don't need to take that much with you when you move.
Yeah.
Because you already have sent everything away.
Yeah, and I think when we get ready to expat, finally move, or with all the possessions that we have in this house here, let the kids have the first choice. And then from there, some of it will be donated. Much of it will be, but the rest of it, you call one of those thrift stores or secondhand stores, and they'll show up with a bunch of muscle-bound guys, and they'll box everything up and pay you a little bit in cash and go. That's what we're going to do with this stuff.
Yeah. The reason why I bring up the staging it in advance is because just like if you had a retreat, bungalow location, whatever, you would stage it in advance in that same mentality or same way of thinking of staging up this place in advance. Like for you, for the hedgehogs, etc., or anyone out there, right? Because you're just doing it in advance, right? Making little tiny steps that you're making progress in it, so you don't have to make this big leap. You're taking little small steps that in time, look, now we just made this big leap, but with a lot of baby steps forward.
That's true. A lot of baby steps.
Yeah.
And that's just how that's a good way of putting it, CR. Thank you. You take those little baby steps and it fills up a box.
Yeah.
And then you get enough boxes
more manageable
filled.
Anyways, right? Because it's more manageable. You can get the finances
little by
the
little
things in advance, right?
Yeah.
Because I imagine for the hedgehogs right now, like obviously they're putting down a lot of dough finances for everything right now they've used, right? So, and some of that stuff you gotta imagine that it may be more expensive later than you think, or you underestimated how much you need it. And all
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So having more time to get it ready would be nice.
Yeah. I think that's well, I'm running things through my mind here because there's a lady at the supermarket. She and her husband would have been watching YouTube videos about moving to the Philippines. Plus, they work with Filipino staff, and I'll see if I can set up a coffee date with her and her husband. You know, giving my kind of a mentoring coffee date. There is a lot to consider before you move to a new country. You know,
Yeah.
you need to go. You really need to go there and look around first, because it is the other side of the world, and you're going to be lost for a while.
And videos, maps only show you so much, right?
Right.
You need to see this with your own eyes.
Sliver. You do.
Yeah. You need. It's just like experiencing preparedness. You need to actually do it to be experiencing it.
Yeah.
Do it with your own, for your own self, or see it for your own eyes, right? That's
you're
where
right.
you're gonna get insight from.
It's just a sliver. That's all they'll show you is just a sliver. But if
that's
you go,
just a small point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Right, pictures are only a small point of view, right?
It doesn't say anything about the air quality, the traffic noise, day and night, and the traffic alone. You know, little videos here and there give you a little bit of insight.
The heat, right?
Yes.
You say they live in your area, right? They're probably not going to be used to that heat part, right?
Oh, baby.
Used to heat that, you know, that's like Texas weather, but real humid.
Mm-hmm. It is at an island.
Would be, 95 Fahrenheit plus, whatever it is.
To be honest, I've always been afraid to look at the humidity. I just don't want to know.
I don't want to humiliate you.
Mm-hmm. But
another thing I was thinking about when you see you mentioned maps and videos, and to go there, it looks like you find an area. I want to go there and build a house and things like that. And you see watch videos from that area. It looks so good. And, nice area. Or when you get there, you get disappointed. It's not. It's a total disappointment. And no, I don't want to be here. It's too dangerous. I need to find another area.
On that same train of thought, say, we got election year coming up here, and there's going to be arson and all that. What I've done I've looked at maps that are in association with police statistics.
Yeah.
And if we're on foot or if we have to leave this house, I know the areas to going from point A to point B. I know the areas to stay away from, because there's maps out there that show you where the highest crime is in different locations around my area. I looked at those already, and I know that if we have to leave here, stay the hell away from that road, stay away from that road, that highway, go around it,
Well, Bob, that's what I said, or what I said earlier about trying to talk to locals in that area, wherever you're moving to, right?
Yeah.
If you have relatives, friends, whatever, right?
You're right.
To them, right? Because they probably won't hold too much back, right? They'll tell you how it is there.
They will. Yeah.
Oh, it's 35. It's 35 Celsius, 95 Fahrenheit all the time here.
Well,
humidity's high.
Example
Traffic
of that.
can be kind of loud, right?
Example of that. Yeah. Example of that is Davao City, where we're going to live, and been there many times and know that there is a terrorist threat there. It's there. But talking to my brother-in-law, he gave me the specific names of some of the terrorist groups that live in Davao City. You won't see that on a YouTube video. You'll see
because they don't say that.
No, very few people on YouTube will admit defeat or disappointment. Very few. We made this choice, and look at how successful.
Yeah, they just show you all the good. They don't show you the kind of bad and the ugly. So
Right.
there too.
Right. That's a fact. That is a fact. Yeah.
That's why you always got to try to look out for that stuff, because it's just like it kind of shows you the reality of the situation, right? It's like, not metaphorically speaking, there's no place out there that's perfect. There's always going to be some risk with an area, whatever it is.
That's
Whether it
true.
be on the ocean side, inland, mountain, in a cave, in valley, on top of the mountain, whatever, right? Even on the ocean itself, right? We were talking about the boat thing and how great that is. Well, not if you start springing a leak and now your bailer's not working, your pump's not working. Oh yeah, that is gonna push you overboard. Literally.
Yeah,
literally.
that's what scares me away from going out to sea, is that big body of water is very unpredictable and has killed how many millions of people over the span of time?
Yeah, it could be a whale just randomly hits you, and now you have a hole in your hull, and it's just like you're fast. All right.
That's why I think the lady here in Washington State has got a good idea. They've got a boat. I don't know how big it is. I didn't ask any questions. Got enough provisions on it to where they can get on it, go out in the water, drop anchor. Don't go way out to sea, but just drop anchor and get away from the trouble, and then come back after the trouble's passed. Yeah, as far as living out on the ocean,
enough that you could still get back to land.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
You want to still be able to get back to land.
That's a fact.
Yeah. The ocean might be able to provide a lot of stuff, but some things they'll provide too much, like water.
Yeah. Way too much. Risky. It's risky.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you can't repair the engine, then what, right? You're not to be able to repair the engine on open sea without gear, without stuff. Probably
you need
not.
spare parts. You need
exactly.
Have spare oil. You need spare fuel.
Yeah. There's a fella on YouTube. It's called Keith Fenner channel. He's a professional machinist. He's a job shop, one-man operation in Maine. He's made a living most of his life as a machinist, hand fabricating parts for the fishing boats. Some of them are commercial fishing boats, some of them are private fishing boats, some of them are pleasure boats. That's something that people forget, that once this company makes this line of boats, well, that company doesn't make them anymore, and you can't get replacement parts. So
because it's like kind of one of a kind or proprietary.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that is because the engine is outdated.
Right. And the coupling between the engine and the propeller, in between, that's what he specializes in, is in long shafting and gears that he makes them himself. He's made a living doing that, So
because there's a niche for that kind of stuff.
Right, that's his niche. Exactly. But that's a lot to consider with going out there long term.
You wouldn't want to know someone like that. You're not that kind of person.
Or for me, I think it would be better to rent an apartment on a cruise ship, because then the ship owner has to take care of all that. All that logistics has to go to the boat owner, not you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can be off the coast of Sweden and part breaks. And if it's your own private boat, well, the only people who still have that part are in Scotland. Now what do you do? But the ship owner has to take care of that, not someone who's paying rent. Fantasy, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For most of us, is something like my plan for the insanity that's coming this summer. I got a plan for staying here. That's our highest priority, right here. Right, we're not going anywhere. And if the only way we're going to leave this place is if we get burned out. And that's the only way,
To stay on the same place is the best option.
Yeah, I know the neighborhood. I know the whole area because I've walked it. I've drove it. I know places to go. Yeah. But out to sea would be fun, though, I guess. Wouldn't that be nice? Just have a nice, decent cabin to live in, and all your meals are prepared and like, wow, by gourmet chefs, you know?
Yeah. And you have a bar too.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Those ships has always bars.
They do.
A couple of them, maybe. It's not one bar, it's 7,
Many.
8, 10 bars.
Yeah.
With different themes.
The last time I was down in the port of Seattle proper, down there, the port of Seattle has been reworked quite a bit. It used to be an industrial port, and much of it now, they made it docking facilities for those cruise ships. Shadow, you would not believe how big those ships are. I mean, they are like
a smaller city.
They are a city, yeah. Because here we are driving along the waterfront, and I looked up, and I mean, I kept looking up. Holy crap! Are you kidding me? You know.
You can imagine how much fuel that will burn in an hour.
Wow, just unbelievable. I've seen some of those ships out in the port of Manila from a distance, and they'll take a normal cargo ship and they'll be like 5 times the size of a normal cargo ship, you know. And a super ship is even bigger than those. They're like 3 times bigger than a cruise ship, and maybe 5 times bigger than a cruise ship. Bars, oh yeah, I guess they have professional entertaining for you every night and all that stuff, and feed you like a
on different decks. They have.
Yeah.
You have you can watch movies. You can do whatever you want.
I'm hoping that one day, wife and I have been talking about that. One day, when she finally retires, we can get on one of those ships, you know, and just go on a retirement honeymoon for a few weeks, you know.
Yeah.
Sail into the sunset.
Sail into the sunset. Yeah.
Like Lucky Luke, right in the.
I could just see that.
Maybe okay, guys. You know my wife, you know, fairly well, and the reputation.
Yeah.
Her reputation. What do you think the chances are we'd be able to pull into the port of Bangkok, and she would let me go there and stay while she went out on the cruise ship? What do you think of the chances?
Very small.
Bob. Yes. The chance of that is like not getting snow here in Canada.
Yeah. True.
Rare.
Yeah, that's true.
Some places don't. Some places here in Canada don't get snow. By the way.
I can be a smooth talker, but I ain't that smooth.
So, Bob, how many years does your missus has left before she retire?
Let's see. We're gonna have to. I'm just gonna throw out the 5-year in there. Yeah.
So pretty much until the end of the decade.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah. Tammy's a nurse. She worked with a lot of Filipino ladies, and no chance.
I like the way I said it better.
Yeah, the chance that there'll be no snow in Canada, that's just not going to happen.
Not a snowball chance.
Not going to happen. Let's put a period on the end of that. Not going to happen.
Your chances.
No, because the missus would put a leash on you, Bob.
Yeah. I'd wake up
sure,
one
Bob.
morning,
You can go. Here's a body cam. You have to wear a bow tie.
I'd wake up one morning on the cruise ship with 3 stitches in my ankle. And what the hell is that? Oh, it's just a tracking device, hon. I implanted it under your skin while you're unconscious.
I just want to make sure you're safe, just in case something happens.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Tammy. And in a pine box. After you're dead, she can drop me off in Bangkok. Well,
On
my
one
friends.
condition.
Well, my friends, I'm going to bounce out of here and go back out and get my hands in the soil for a little while. So
Yeah.
take care, everybody.
Take care,
See you,
Bob.
Bob.
Peace
Thanks
out.
for stopping by. I appreciate it. Oh, Lord. Bob is so
Yeah. So, this is where you do all the talking again?
do all the talking.
This is your show, remember that, right?
Yeah, I know.
When I invite you as my co-host, I always do all the talking. Because it's my show. Well, this ain't my show.
Yeah, I know. But anyway,
I mean, unless you want me to ramble for the next, like, the rest of the stream. Let's just talk about something. No. I'm trying to relate it in right away. So, right. That way, when people come to the stream or listen to the replay, it'll be the perfect place to be. To listen.
well, another option is a caravan to buy that. If you want to relocate, or you find a spot somewhere else, then you can put up a caravan there and relocate to that one if needed. Or you buy yourself an RV, but those are pretty expensive too.
I need one of those amphibious type of vehicles that go land and sea.
Yeah, that
you would have
awesome.
the best of both. Right? Like, I know it's kind of fantasy driven a little, but technically it's technically achievable. Could be done or made. It would take a lot of cash, right? Because it's kind of that kind of stuff is kind of one of a kind. So
I watched it, the TV show, The Fifth Gear, the UK version, and I think it was in one of the episodes they had a car. It looks as a regular car, almost, but it was an amphibious car, so that was pretty cool, actually.
I mean, you would have saw something similar to that in a James Bond movie, for example, for kind of a reference of something, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about something.
That car was more like of a submarine.
Yeah. Okay. That was more like a submarine, but you see this stuff in popular pop culture kind of deal.
Yeah.
In TV shows or movies or something like that. But I'm talking about for real though. Right? Imagine something that looks like that as big as an RV, but it floats like a boat. I mean,
yeah, that's really cool. Actually,
that would be real cool.
A car on a lake in real life.
Well, because then
awesome.
You can have these benefits, right? I mean, yeah. I think we're daydreaming a lot right now. We're daydreaming a lot about this perfect place. Unfortunately, most of us probably won't see it, but we could dream about it. Hopefully, one of us gets it.
Well, on the other hand, if you have an amphibious car, well, if the roads are blocked, you can find the nearest road to a lake and.
Well, not just a lake, but maybe a river to bypass it.
Yeah.
Or some sort of, or it could be a lake, so you could detour and make this where no one else can really do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would be that would be really cool, actually.
I mean, it would be obviously there
actually doing it is one thing, a totally different thing, though. Actually having it, driving it, right? Because you want it to handle well as a vehicle, but you want to be able to handle well as a boat too,
Yeah.
right? Because I think the reason why this stuff doesn't really become mainstream is because they haven't figured out how to make it so it works really, really well. Because I think what it starts to happen is that, and I think I've heard about this, it works really, really well as a car, but not so much as a boat. For example, right? Like a multi-tool
Yeah.
can be really good at doing could be good at doing a lot of things, but maybe not really good at doing something specific, right? So that might be the trade-off for something like that. To having more functionality, you kind of lose that specialty kind of thing. Like, for example, yes, you can make it float it like a boat, but it doesn't handle as well as a real boat. It does really well as in the
No.
vehicle mode. Yeah, but
Well, and on the other hand, you can't get the car up to a high speed.
Yeah.
You can't get a car into 20 knots.
Yeah, because
You
the
can't.
aerodynamics and the surface dynamics of water compared to going for the air in terms of like driving compared to
Yeah,
sailing
and
on.
the car
Yeah.
and the car is wider
Because there's that
and more
because that
square
wedge shape
or
that wedge
rectangular.
shape. Yeah, because that wedge shape of a boat or a canoe in comparison to that square shape of a vehicle, right? So yeah. Because I think there has been these things that people have tried to adapt. A car that you add wings to make it fly, right? Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
I've
what
seen that
what
on
they
TV
say,
too.
yeah, but you gotta carry this behind you, the wing part, right? Doesn't work, yeah, but you need a runway long enough, and so it's a trade-off, right?
Yeah, and you
They
need
haven't
a
perfected.
pilot's
Yeah, they have.
license to fly
Yeah,
those.
it's something like that, right? Obviously, if you're gonna do this kind of having a ship that acts like a car, you're gonna need a license to drive and as a boat and all
Yeah.
that stuff, right? Right, class of license and all that stuff, right? So, yeah, or else everyone would be doing it. I think it's because they haven't figured that out, or no one's really figured out how to make it seamlessly where you get a really pretty good boat and car for what it is. Because usually these things are usually only one side of it is really, really good. The other side is, it's okay, mediocre, for example, right?
Yeah,
This drives really good as a car, not so much as a boat, because it doesn't have the wedge shape. It's flat, it's square, like a vehicle, like a truck, a van, whatever, right? So, I guess this is why a lot of people just DIY a camper or something like that into
yeah,
something of what they want. If they had to bug out or something like that, or evacuate a fleet.
yeah. Or an RV or a caravan or
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of the YouTuber, some of the YouTubers that I follow out there. I'm like, yeah, they have some sort of bring along with me trailer or something like that they have. They're trying to outfit with gear and resources and stuff like that. So if they have to go find that perfect place for some reason, they can. And one of them actually showed up on the stream, by the way. One of them is here. And I know for sure. Yeah. You'll have to guess who it is, though.
And the advantage with a RV is that you can drive it wherever you want and park it.
Yeah, relatively
you
speaking,
can-
you can drive.
So
Yeah,
you
you can
can
drive it. You can drive it to the airport. You can drive it into a parking lot at a shopping center. You can drive it to your friend's place, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you need to relocate, you can drive wherever you want and find a good spot and park it there.
Yeah. Yeah, because you get because an RV, because I've been in an RV, I've never owned one, but I've been in RVs from other people, right? Because I've gone camping with other people and they bring them, right? I was just like, yeah, it's just like having a really tiny home with you, but on wheels.
Yeah. It is basically a tiny home on
Because
wheels.
there's like places.
some of them are really elaborate now. You know, like you get a shower, you get all this stuff. I mean, the modern ones, I've seen some of them, not in the real world, but in videos and stuff like that. I'm like, dang, that's better than my home. No, you know, but it's on wheels like a tiny house.
Yeah.
But then again, like the trade-off with the boat example, like Professor Richard said, space is the ultimate kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Instant words, and I can't think of it. Limitation, yeah.
Yeah.
The space is a limitation because you only have so much room, and some things on an RV on a boat are gonna be smaller version of it, like a fridge or something like that. Smaller showers and stuff like that, because you only have so much space itself, right? In comparison, if you have a house with land.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, even your apartment probably has more surface area or area than compared to an RV.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Definitely.
Yeah. So even someone like Kaylin, her apartment's probably bigger than a lot of RVs in terms of space or surface area. But the real trade-off is that an RV gives you that potential of movement or mobility. That's
Yeah.
the major advantage. Right.
Tammy says problem with RV is finding a dump station for the black waste and gray water.
Oh yeah. You're gonna find facilities to deal with that. Replenish your water supply, all right. For example, the tanks that you have in, right, and stuff like that.
And
Well,
those
that comes back to
tanks, you can fill them up at a certain point, and then you need to refill it and empty them.
yeah. Well, because these come back to the consumables of, let's say, food, water, for example, right, or things you have to drop off because you have to get rid of them. You can store it for a little bit, but eventually the tanks will fill, like wastewater, whatever. So you have to discard it somehow, somewhere, right? Hopefully safely, too, right? But it's just stuff like that, right? It's just like what I said earlier about how long can you sustain it for, right? Because these inputs of you need the water inputs in, right? Well, eventually those you're gonna output in that wastewater somewhere. You know what I mean? So those things you have to account for. Because those things will wear down your finances and all that stuff. You always have to find where. They're always kind of almost tethered to it. You know what I mean? Like a waste station or somewhere where you could always drop it off, right? Or a place you can refill on water. Because those are going to be the limiting factors, right? Because you can't go too far away from those because you need them. It's part of the requirements, right? For that kind of lifestyle. You always have to know where you're going to get the next water from, where you're going to drop off the wastewater. You know, if it runs on any kind of petrol, gas, propane, whatever, where you're going to refill that. Because in time, those are consumables. You have to restock on them in time.
Yeah.
You know, unless you've already squared away where you're going to do this. Where you can be more self-reliant or self-sufficient about it. But not a lot of people do that. You know, the water that they bring in, they just go to a place they can get.
Yeah.
They can drop off this, right? The propane they're picking up, right?
Yeah. And the other drawback with an RV is if you have to take it to the downtown, to the city, to the grocery store,
it's fantastic.
You can lose your spot.
Yeah.
Because somebody else can take it.
Yeah. Well, not only that, an RV is going to stand a lot more in comparison to like trucks, cars, and stuff like that in a different area. I mean, unless there's a lot of RVs, then maybe not. But I'm just saying, like, if you see an RV and it's the only RV in the parking lot, it's probably going to stand out because it's one of a kind in the parking lot, right? Every other car would be like, oh, there's a Beetle, there's a Ford. Oh, whose RV is this? You know, because it would stand out, right? So something because you have to restock on something, right? People may be nefarious people may want to take advantage of that, unfortunately. Yeah. Because they would know, well, if this is an RV, there's got to be supplies in there, right? Just for the simple fact it's an RV. people would assume that you travel in it, you have stuff in it, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So
But
I mean, if I go ahead.
But if you use a caravan instead, you leave the caravan on the spot you parked it, and take the car downtown. So
Yeah.
you don't lose the spot you have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because it's a separate type of thing, not joint.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
so that is more convenient to have a caravan than a RV, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Because I could just, like I said, Shadow, I could just imagine, an RV rolling up that looks nice and fancy, almost new, like, right? Some people may take advantage of that, depending on the time of day and all that stuff, right? Especially if they see the people leave, there's no one in there, they may take advantage of that. Just because if you think about it, like I said, it's an RV. You imagine it's pretty expensive for what it is. There's probably stuff inside, obviously, because especially if you see something out of state or out of the country come in, right? They'll be like, they must have supplies in there, right? Or whatever. They're stopping at a Walmart or whatever to pick up to resupply. So clearly they probably have stuff. So it could be vulnerable in terms of theft, for example, right? Because vehicle theft does happen, and I imagine RVs wouldn't be any different compared to a truck or a car. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there could be, something as simple as like, oh, here, there's a generator inside, inside the RV.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Boom. All right. Next thing you know, dude, where's my generator?
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, that's not that is definitely not take you off if something like that happens.
And the other thing is, other drawback with an RV is if they break into the RV, they can steal the whole RV.
Or have the potential to do something.
So you can
maybe not necessarily steal it. Maybe not necessarily steal it, but they could take it for a joyride, and the next thing you know, you're gonna write it off to insurance, and that would suck, right? Especially if you're living in it, right? That's the thing, right? Because you're still vulnerable because all your eggs are in one basket. It's just like the boat is all your eggs in one basket. So if you spring a leak in the boat, it's serious. If your RV doesn't have fuel or it gets taken for a joyride, it could be rained off, right?
Yeah.
You won't be able to use it because it's been rained off, right? It's not safe anymore or whatever.
Exactly.
Marine stuff like that. Sorry, I don't have the chat window open right now. So I am not following along on the side chat unless you post it to say anything. So Tammy's still here? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tammy says there is one free station here, but most charge dollars, and improper disposal is a big fine.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, and Prepper for the Age, who says, have seen people getting caught dumping into sewer grates. It's a big no-no.
Yeah, because, I think that's one of those things, right? You don't want to pay the fine, but you also know you're going to get rid of it, right? And it comes back to the requirements of it, right? It's a consumable. Well, it's not like a consumable like fuel, food, or water, but this is something you need to discard. Yeah, you have to discard it. It's just like, let's say, any air waste that you have on board, whatever it is, food, whatever, any of that stuff, right? You still have to discard it somehow.
Yeah.
So
you have to. Then sooner or later you have to. So
yeah. I mean, you can only reuse so much and all that stuff. I mean, this is what I was thinking about, like, even how sustainable can you make that? All right, where you don't actually have to. How often do you have to resupply, or whatever, right? How much can you actually grow, or whatever, right? Okay, let's just say hypothetically, this is like SHTF. You're trying to find a perfect place, or
right now you're doing it beforehand and stuff like that. How long can you keep that up for what it is, right? And realize where are the things that are always going to be consumed. The resources that aren't going to get consumed. Let's just say food, water, fuel, right? Those, well, power too, maybe to a certain degree, right? Those are consumables, right? Eventually, you got to replace them. Put the inputs back into it, right? Or else you won't have anything left. Right? You'll run dry, right? The well will run dry. Then what? You're back to square one again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I
think
think for
that's
the
what
HSAs, there are also the idea of stealth camping where people sleep in SUVs and in cars overnight. Some camping
vans.
work vans and have fake logos on them to blend in.
Yeah. But even those, in time, you still have to refill. You still have to bring in. You still need a water supply of some sort, right? If you want to have some coffee,
Yeah,
you want to eat something, you still need that stuff, those inputs in. It doesn't
yeah,
matter
I
if you're
agree.
hiking, you're bugging out, you're sheltering in place. You still need kind of those resources, right? And those are always going to be consumables, because once you consume it, it's got to be replaced by new water, fresh water, new fuel, fresh fuel, new solar, new battery, new power coming in, air food that you've grown and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys keep that in mind. So something was, I'm always thinking like maybe not in a valley, but like, well, maybe not in a valley, but a valley area that has a lake, a river, freshwater stream from the mountains, right? There's wildlife, obviously, because it's in the wooded area, right? And, you're in an area that's kind of more open, so fire may be not as big of an issue, right? Because you're in a more open area, far away from the tree line and stuff like that. Tornado, maybe rare. You're off the coast, so hurricane's not a problem, tsunami's not a problem, right? And then just down, let's say an hour away, you can hit a town.
Yeah.
That might not be so bad. Actually, if I think about it. Because that
Prepper for the
checks off.
says campgrounds are $125 a night, which can all add up quickly. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And that is expensive, $125 a night.
Yeah. Like even some of the basic camping I can do for an area, and it's just like, 20, 30. Yeah, it depends. Depends on what kind of amenities are available and such. But that's a lot. I mean, if that includes a lot of utility, let's just say power in or other things, then might not be so bad. But
I agree.
if that's just to use the land or sit on it, on the place, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. That seems expensive. But
I am car camping next weekend while at the conference. Too cold for a tent at night in Michigan. Yeah, I bet it is.
Well,
camping in car works perfectly fine.
Yeah, Tammy, it's only May right now. You'd be lucky if the temperature overnight is still above 50 Fahrenheit or plus 10. At least for me here, it's not. It's barely even plus 10 overnight. Or 50 Fahrenheit. Right? Anything in the single digits in the 40s, you'll start feeling cooler in a vehicle, in a tent. Because it's more almost like late fall, early spring type of camping. Where you need
30 a night around here. Okay.
Well, where you need a little bit more insulation because it's not the middle of the summer where it's like 16, 60 Fahrenheit overnight still. 27, 80 Fahrenheit during the day. Right? You could it would still be quite cool especially without a campfire or anything like that. A heat source like that. You'll need like a better sleeping bag, right? Obviously, it's not, it's not snowing, but, so it's not that cold. But after a couple nights,
yeah, you probably want a better shelter arrangement. Because I've woken up from a quick overnighter in just above, wow, it was like 4 or 5 Celsius overnight, give or take, right?
Yeah.
And that wasn't the best. I mean, you could do an overnighter, but what Tammy said, she's doing this for a longer period of time, night after night, right? So she probably wants something a little bit better set up, a little bit more comfortable. You know, something she can kind of have that security aspect of a vehicle compared to an open tent. Right? You can lock the doors. It's kind of hard to lock a tent. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's really hard to lock a tent. I agree.
Yeah, trust me, because all the homeless people have tried and it never works. It always happens in the same way. From what because I've heard this from someone else, right? Tents get destroyed, unfortunately. Torn up, ripped, cut, all that stuff, right? Unfortunately, it happens. I kind of hate that, by the way. I kind of hate that stuff that happens like that. Yeah. So, how long are you gonna go to the top of the hour again? The usual 4-hour mark?
Yeah, 4-hour mark. We have at least 9 minutes left.
Oh, by the way, I would like to talk to you in the backstage after.
I figured.
I didn't have a chance to talk to you earlier. By the way, I like to talk to this guy, everyone. He's nice to talk to in the backstage. We're in private chats.
I know.
It's nice. It's nice. It's nice to communicate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you guys join the panel right now, you know, wink, wink, I could talk to you guys in the backstage. No, I'm just kidding.
Wild Edible says new immigrants to Canada get free provincial camping.
Well, you know, Wild Edibles and everyone else, we got to remember, I think people migrating may happen more frequently as time goes on.
That's
now.
awesome, Rebel.
I don't know if you agree with me, Shadow, on that. It seems like immigration in terms of people fleeing an area may become more common overall as certain things happen. Not just war, but other things that happen. Because if you're fleeing an area, it's because it's unsafe. Regardless if it's man-made or natural, right?
Okay, prepare for the ages. Go and feed your mother, and you have a great day.
Take care.
Thanks for stopping by.
For the ages.
I appreciate it. Stay safe.
We appreciate it. Yes. We appreciate it, right?
And stay vigilant, and God bless.
Oh. Yeah. Great. I forgot what I was going to say now. I lost my train of thought. I got derailed. Yeah, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. Last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. But, man, there's nowhere for anyone to live in Canada.
Well, I was going to mention this earlier. Most of the population here in Canada actually lives in the underneath the 49 parallel here on the North American continent. That's why most people, the majority of the population here in Canada, live in southwestern Ontario. The population density is higher over there. Hence political stuff and all that stuff, which I won't get into, because I don't want to get into that, but because generally it's warmer down there. So around where the Great Lakes are over there. In comparison, the population density is much, much higher compared to like the north, the rest of the country, right? And generally I think that's grown zone 5 there, for example, and it's less likely to freeze in the winter, less cold during the winter, and all this other stuff, right? I'm not saying it doesn't snow or anything, but because obviously it snows in like Toronto and down in Windsor, right? But the population density is higher down there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hey, Vanessa Kita. Welcome back.
Oh, she's back. Hey, Vanessa, welcome
Yeah.
back.
VK is
Yay!
back.
Yay! I like when Vanessa Kitty shows up. It's always awesome. Yes. So in this last like 5 minutes here, right?
Yeah.
Last 5 minutes here, I'm just gonna let Shadow do all the talking.
Yeah, the 5 minutes
Oh,
left.
yeah. This is your show, right? I figured you want to say all the stuff.
I usually say. But anyway, I can mention it.
But
again.
it's not time yet. It's not time yet.
No, that was not what I had in mind. I'm gonna
Oh.
mention the next week's live stream again.
Oh, yeah.
Just to put out a little bit extra reminder.
FYI.
Okay, guys, next week's live stream topic will be how to transition from normality into an SHTF world.
Well, I feel like I want to talk about it right now, at least briefly, because like the way I see something like that is to like gradually get used to it, or how Bob would say, learn to live without whenever possible, right? When you're trying to transition, because sometimes let's say, a lot of life on the planet can actually like adapt to stuff, but it takes time to adapt sometimes. So the more time you give yourself to doing it, it might be a little bit easier to transition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you see it all the time. Right? Things can adapt, but it takes time. So
Yeah.
and if you were in the preparedness part of it, start today. Start today. Start today. Start getting used to it if it did happen. Right? Because if it suddenly happened the next day, well, at least you have some experience or a taste of it. So the transition to something much, much different wouldn't be totally out of the ballpark. It's just like, I've gone camping. This ain't so bad, right? Something along the lines of that, right? Where I really hope I can remember this next week. That was just off the tip of my tongue. It's just something I wanted to say right away. That's how I would see it. Sum up next week's show in 5 words or less, kind of deal, right? So. Okay, everyone, this is where ShadowScoutSwede says all his stuff, and I mute myself and listen to him. Was that a mouthful? Sorry.
Well, guys, I think we wrap things up. I appreciate that you stopping by, guys, and I'll see you next week, next Saturday, same time, same channel. And don't forget your beverage.
Coffee.
Yeah, especially you, CR.
I'm just saying what coffee.
And remember to eat before the stream too, CR.
Well, this time around, no one mentioned about food.
Well, you never know what happens.
Yeah, I should transition to like eating less. It's never gonna happen. That's never gonna happen to me.
Take care, guys. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. God bless.
ShadowScoutSwede is awesome.
Thank you.